Scotty, beam me up.
Alright, captains, we are back on the bridge, and today, yes, I am super excited for this opportunity and chance to speak with one of the content creators that I really admired when I first started. And I had mentioned when I started this whole interview series that this was actually something leading up to something, and this was it, captains. It was actually Aries wanting to have just a chill time here on the bridge with us to sort of get back into his streaming, and I am so thankful for the opportunity for that. But that has spawned so many things in terms of, just like I said, interviews and a chance to sort of nerd out and such. So, captains, we are in for a treat. There's things that we want to talk about that we're excited to talk about. So, again, there's not necessarily a time frame here, but before we get the Emperor back on, I see Chris Simon. I know on YouTube that's Simon, sir.
Admiral, if you will come with me.
Universet, how you doing?
Captain on the bridge.
No, we got Dwayne.
Captain on the bridge.
And we also got Sam. Sorry, Sam. All
Admiral,
that sounded off. And yeah, captains, we were off there yesterday. I apologize for that, but we are back, and we've been a little busy doing a lot of things in real life, but also the videos that we've been working on with. We have Ransman. Hello, sir. How you doing?
Captain
Welcome.
on the bridge.
So, captains, I'm going to point your attention to that thumbnail you see at the bottom right corner of your screen. I thought that was a really fun thumbnail to work on. It just worked on so many levels. I was able to use, once again, my Borg face, and it was like a mirror thing, and you know, I got Aries approval, and the picture he gave me just matches Picard's sitting there, so I thought that was really cool. And I don't know why, I just have fun working on these things, and you know, it just kind of falls into place. So I'm really happy about that. Can you imagine? Oh well, oof. Well, well, we'll see where this goes. But again, captains, we have a set of questions for Aries, and there are some things that we are excited to talk about, like I mentioned before. Tumor Boy, sir, hello, how you doing?
Captain on the bridge.
Thank you so much for stopping by. How are you? I'm a T5 Galaxy. Nice. Yeah. So tonight, again, we're gonna talk with Aries, and there's things that, especially a subject that I really I'm looking forward to talking about, because I think it is something that I can't say that has effect. I don't say effect because that's not the right word. That I've experienced. There you go. We'll just use experience. But I believe it's very important to talk about. And again, I can't be more thankful to the Emperor himself for bringing us on. So tell you what, let's bring on Mr. Aries himself. And there is his beautiful face, Mr. Aries, the Emperor. Let's go, sir. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm good. It's a very early morning for me, so it's good to be here.
Which we screwed up too.
We did. We got completely wrong, because I can't count apparently. Can't past the 10 fingers that I have, so I can't do anything beyond that. You know, it's just like, what?
Well, so captains, what happened is so I'm in Canada, and of course Aries is in
Slovakia.
So we were sort of lining up a time frame, and like 2 weeks we were trying to line this up, and we finally got a time frame, and I said 11 my time because I had volleyball tonight. When I get home, I have a message saying, okay, I'm up, I'm here. But that was like at 9:30. I was like, what?
Yeah, I got up a bit early.
just a bit. But Andy, hello, how are you doing, sir?
Captain on the bridge.
But it was, again, first, Aries, I said this already off stream, but I want to thank you. All of these series of interviews that I've done with CCs has been something that you suggested. and
Yes.
I've been very humbled by the fact that you wanted to visit us here on the bridge. And it's not the first time you've been here. You've been in chat and stuff like that, but this is the first time that I've been in voice chat with you in a stream here. So thank you. I really do appreciate that.
I mean, you're the first person I've been on stream with since my break in January, so it's quite nice to be back. I've been invited many times, you know, because I've been hanging around in streams, and people have said, "Come on, voice," and I've gone, "No." And then I think I was watching one of your videos of one of the interviews you did, and I went, "Do you know what? You're quite good at that." And then I just thought, you know, I had one of those moments, and I have a lot of these moments in my life where I just go, "I'm going to just tell him." I just go, "Do you know, you're really good at that. You should just interview other people." And you're like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, do it." And then here we are. So I was like, "Yeah, I should really go on that myself, actually," since suggested it all. So
no, I appreciate that. I think it's more or less my love to just connect with people, really. And I think as a streamer, first, I mention this all the time. One of the first CCs or streamers I saw was yourself. And
Really?
you were very...
I'm sorry.
No, actually, no, because here's the thing. You were very interactive with your chat. Regardless of what you were doing, you were there, you were looking, you would, of course, you do your thing, but then you would always go back to chat. And when I would come in there, you would always greet anyone who would say hello to you. So I'd like to think that a lot of that I got from you, seeing the way you interact with your chat, you know, when anyone's there with you.
I mean, you got the advantage. It took me years to get this right, you know, and I was never good at this when I started. It's actually one of the reasons I don't usually have people on voice chat, because I get so distracted sometimes. I've got the attention span of a squirrel. You know, I was kind of like, ooh, shiny. You know, and you're like, what was I doing again? And yeah, it's always good fun. I mean, I like to go back to my chat. It was something that I worked on for a long time to make sure that I was engaging with everybody that came in and spoke to me. And I'm reading the chat just now. It's nice to see that. Yeah. You know. So it was always important for me to talk to the chat, and it's actually one of the reasons my builds evolved the way they did in Star Trek, because I literally have complete and utter lazy man casting for everything except for PvP. So like all my spam bars, all my keybinds, macros, everything is designed so that I can pay attention to chat and completely ignore what I'm doing in the game, which is really strange, because you get all these people that are like so focused on a TFO, and I'm kind of just sitting there going, "So what's he saying? All right, he's doing that, and I'm clicking away with my hands, and it's all happening, and I'm like, so I've kind of learned to play the game using peripheral vision, and clicking macros that I've set up, and then just reading chat all the time. So it's I've actually really struggled to play Star Trek recently because I'm not streaming it. So it's been sitting dormant, and I'm going in doing my usual sort of paperwork and signing out, because I don't want to do the content. I don't want to do things because I'm always engaging with these. I've got a dog barking outside. Don't know what he's barking at. You know, just early morning wake up call. So it's been good fun. I love engaging with the channel, and I've been missing it. I've been missing it greatly, because there's a lot of people there that I've missed talking to and catching up with. So.
Simondus being one of them. I think that's the first time I heard exclamation Simondus. that you know, when I heard that interaction with you, Simondus, and then the FYA. I mean, because I know you know that I don't personally I don't swear, but when I saw that interaction with you two, I thought it was real for a second. I'm like, what? Like this is me. I was new to Twitch, and that is kind of what I kind of gravitate toward, that interaction, that sort of connection. There you go. That's the word around, the connection that you have. And, you know, for me, the nightly paperwork should only take me an hour, but because of chatting or whatever, catching up, talking about daily stuff, it just extends to 2 hours, you know, and you know, I find that it's part of what makes Star Trek Online fun for me. It just adds another layer, I should say. It, you know, like Star Trek Online is always fun, but this adds a different layer because it's about talking with like-minded captains. You know, so Afo, Afo, sir, you didn't need to do that. Thank you. How are
Did
you?
you know that he actually changed his name because of me?
Did he?
Yeah, he had a different name, and I changed it. I told him to change it to Afro Ranger. As there's many times this has happened with other people as well. But yeah, Afo, I love Afo. He's a great guy. Absolute great guy. He streams as well occasionally, or was streaming. I haven't caught it recently. So true. Yeah, there you go. Nice, Afo.
Clockwork, I'm doing well.
But
Thank
yeah.
you. Welcome, captains.
Captain on the bridge.
Yep, my puppy heard it. Your puppy heard the bark. they're talking to each other. So, but yes, one of the reasons why we're here. So we're going to captains. Like I said, I was looking forward to this because not only do we have a set of some questions we have, but there's a topic that I'm looking forward to talking about because it is something that I experience in a different way, I should say. Maybe that's how I should word it. But sir, if there's anything else you wanted to kind of cover before we started there, I do have my first question for you, if that's okay.
Yeah, bash on.
Okay, so you know this one already, but I want you to tell us about yourself, and in doing so, tell us something that maybe no one knows yet about you.
Well, I mean, the thing I said to you earlier, you know, like I don't know if there's anything people don't really know about me. So where do I begin? You know, obviously I'm Scottish. I'm from Scotland, born, bred. Very passionate about my nationality. You know, multiple kilts, all this sort of stuff. You know, I love it. I'm 38. I'm old, or I feel old these days at 38. And I see all these younger people doing all this new stuff, and I just think, oh my god, a lot of the time. But I think you know, if I went on the persona that I play in my streams, you know, I'm the God Emperor of mankind. I've been here since the dawn of day. my aims in life is world domination, you know, and these sort of things. But I mean, I'm quite a relaxed person. I started streaming probably about 8 years ago, on and off. I take massive breaks and just with consistency and stuff. I've never been great, but myself, massive football / soccer fan. Well, depending on where you are in the world, you know, massive football fan. Love it. Coached it for 5 years in the US. Absolutely adored it. Love the game. Love everything about it. I'm completely crazy about football and I watch it at any opportunity. Obviously, massive sci-fi fan. Covered in tattoos. I like my tattooing. Expensive, and it's, you know, I ended up with a lot of them.
Yeah.
Very addictive. You know, obviously here, married, living in Slovakia, nice big piece of land, quiet life, got a great job, work for a wonderful company. Absolutely adore my managers. They give me, I think one of the most important things about my job is they give me an opportunity to grow and to improve, and that's really important to me. So, you know, when you work for somebody that gives you room to not only do your job but improve your job and everyone else around you, I really strive for that. So very ambitious, very eager, very dominant. I would always say that people describe me as a bit of an alpha male, which I love this phrase. He's an alpha male. I'm like, shut up. But yeah, so streaming for about 8 years on and off, mostly Star Trek Online. I did a big stint of World of Warcraft, which was boring. Because nobody watches World of Warcraft unless you're a woman or, you know, like one of the top players in the world. But I'm not one of them. So you know, I moved to Star Trek Online because I just enjoyed the game. So that was kind of that. Something people don't know. This one was a decision I've been thinking about for a while. Most people don't know I served in the army. I did 5 years in the armed forces and saw deployment abroad on 3 occasions. And it's been something that I've kind of kept to myself a lot, mainly because I didn't want it to define me as a streamer. And, you know, I'd seen a lot of people playing on that aspect, or people that would come in and say, you're this and I'm going to support you because of that. And I was like, do you know what? I don't want you supporting me because of that. I want you supporting me because of who I am and my personality and whether you're enjoying the stream or not. You know, I think that was more important to me. So it's been something that I've kept to myself. There's a lot of people that do know, but those people are particularly close to me. You know, the people that I've known for a long time, and it's never been something that's been brought up. So yeah, I used to be a soldier. I think that's one of the things that people don't really know about me. And I spent some time abroad soldiering, essentially. But it's never been something that I wanted to use in stream and particularly focus on. I just wanted to focus on the game and the chat and the people. You know, I'm more interested in everyone else than. I mean, I'm brilliant myself, so I just want everyone else to be the same. So it's focus on everyone else and ignore me, as usual rules for my thought process.
And hearing you, I mean, if I may, like when we were talking about that, I was shocked. But what shocked me more was the fact of that reason, but also I almost got a sense of you didn't want to bring those memories back up.
No.
Right?
No.
And it's even though it's a, you know, yes, I respect you, soldier, stuff like that, it only takes a very little statement, words to just trigger those memories. And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think for me, I mean, my service defines the person who I am. It shaped me very, very much, and obviously I was massively affected by the work that I did at that time, and that's kind of why I closed the door on it, because I was like, I didn't want it to be something I was holding on to. You know, it was, for me, it was this next step. I'm very much one of these kind of people that just kind of moves through the next door and keeps going instead of looking backwards. And I say, right, okay, what's next? And I start working forward towards everything. I've always done this. I've always just strived to be better and better all the time. So, you know, once I'd finished that, I mean, at this stage now, it's been 13 years. You know, when I say I'm old, you know, I sit back at 13 years since I departed, you know, the armed forces and the army. And I sometimes forget, you know, when someone says to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, I did that. You know, and they're like, really? And I was like, yeah, a long time ago. So yeah, it's never been something that I've ever brought. But like I said, I really wanted people to. I'm reading Augie's mail comments there. I really wanted people to respect me for who I am, and my personality, and how I stream, and the enjoyment of the stream rather than anything else. So I think I wanted to build that rather than just have people coming in and saying, oh my God, you know, you used to do this. I respect you. And I'm like, well, you don't know me. You know? And I was like, I could be the most horrible person in the world. You have no idea, you know, so just come in, enjoy the content, and we'll move from there. So that's why I've kind of kept it to myself.
Which, when you say that, you know, I just, in that moment you said that, it's, I don't want to say that there's a persona when we're on, but there is a bit of maybe play up or play down depending on what type of person you are. You've always been.
That's a hard one, because I am. If you ask my work colleagues, I am mental. You know, and they're just like, we were working in the summer and stuff, and you know, some people are just like that after like a day of working with me. They're like, oh my God, you know, like how does anyone cope with this all the time? You know, and I'm just like, how do you think my wife feels? You know, the fact that she's still alive the fact that I'm still alive is a testament to her patience.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, actually, the whole God Emperor thing was not my original starting point with streaming. It was actually a joke that started in a stow fleet, in a fleet, and a group and community that I was with. And I'm actually a massive Warhammer 40,000 fan. I mean, I absolutely love Warhammer 40,000 and everything to do with it. So Games Workshop, all that stuff, model collecting used to do it, painting used to do it. You spend thousands on models and painting and all this sort of stuff. Absolutely love it. And love the games, love it. Everything about the Warhammer 40,000 universe, lore, everything. And I was going on about it one day, and of course someone was like, you've got a bit of a god complex. And I was like, yeah, I do. And it just became a bit of a joke. and then of course I started actually moving my stream stuff into it. When I was
Mhm.
like, do you know what? This is something that actually I can play on because I like it.
Yeah.
You know, and I love the Warhammer genre, and it's sci-fi. You know, evidence sci-fi. It's something that I love. So of course I just kind of moved towards it slowly,
Mhm.
and then the more and more I did it, the more and more I enjoyed it. You know, so when you have people like, you know, like yourself, you come in and you say Emperor, you know, like, yeah, you know, I absolutely love it.
Stroke that, stroke that, stroke that. Yes, yes.
Stroke that ego.
No, and for me, I know there's something. Simondes. I tend to say I'm pretty much the same person off stream as well. You know, people have been with me in chat and VC after streaming, and at any time also when I'm doing a video or whatever, there is this sort of play up to the excitement, but that's because that's a different platform and where personally I'm choosing to share the passion that I have inside. Streaming wise, it's different because that's real time, right? And funny thing is, one of the things you said is, and one of the reasons why I don't have a camera is one of the reasons that you almost didn't watch me is I don't want to see people see my reaction. It's for me, man. Could you? I'd be like every single time, and it's just not attractive to just see, you know, Triz just, you know, getting scared every second with all the commands that are going off. So, you know, and with the commands, again, that's something that was a very theme that has obviously involved in the channel here, but also I got from you, Grumpy, Polarcade, those people who had those commands on, and really, I don't know, it's kind of taken a sort of there's no Master Dude. And by the way, hello captains who just joined us.
Captain on the bridge.
Yeah, I mean, the sound commands was a big thing for me because obviously I started it as just add them, you know, and it's just kind of let's start adding them. And if you go into my sound command list and hit the command that brings them up, there's about 1,000 of them in my channel. And because I'm like, I don't even remember some of them, you know, like there's a sound command goes off and you're sitting going, did I really have that? You know, like,
Yeah, that's true.
When did I add this command? You know, when did I add that and why? You know, so it was, I think it just adds to this wonderful aspect of interaction with the stream. And of course, the added benefit to this is obviously I've recorded sound commands. Really, for example, with Simondes, you know, this was, I don't even remember how it came about. It was, he did something. He always does something, you know. So, you know, of course, I was like, Simondes, you know, I just responded to him. And then, of course, somebody was like, oh my God, that would make a great sound command. And of course, I was off just like literally just there and then, just like, cool, opened up, you know, the recording, you know, program that I use and just recorded it straight away, you know. And it's the same with the FYI, you know, the FYA command, the for me, you know, this came about. It was conversations, and then it was fragrance free. That, you know, I actually sent him a message and said, listen, I think this would be really funny if you recorded it. Would you record it for me? And ironically, I love Fragrance. I think he's a great guy. And he sent me, I think it was like 12 recordings of him saying it in a different way. And of course, you know, there's just me sitting listening to insulting myself 12 different ways, you know, to try and figure out which one suits me. And I think this comes to my sort of personality and why I get on so well with a lot of the stream and stuff, because I've got that sort of like sense of humor where you can come in and troll me, give me abuse, say what you want, and I'm just going to sit there and laugh at you and just go, okay then, you know.
Go
and
on,
I've seen it over the years and say bring it and see how that goes. But it is, I love the sound commands and the streams, and when you've got them, it makes it a wee bit more exciting and more engaging and stuff. Which is
for me, it's had very, what I call nostalgia nuggets is kind of what it started with. Hearing certain lines from Star Trek The Next Generation, or I guess one of the most recent ones, Q Farewell. Just regardless of how many times people play that, it still hits hard for me.
Yeah, it was a wonderful scene in Picard, and you're absolutely one of them. And that was one of those ones where you're sitting there going, "Oh my god!" I was sitting there going, "Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry."
Again, if I would have done a live reaction, like I think, regardless of what people think of the totality of, let's say Star Trek Picard, I kind of enjoy Star Trek Picard in a different way, where I'll just go towards the good moments that I feel that I can connect with. If there are others that I can't connect with, okay, fine, whatever, let's move on, right? Just wait for the next great moment or whatever. So, there'll be no crying, captains. No, stop it.
No crying.
Stop it. There's none.
There's been some powerful moments in Star Trek recently. It's been absolutely wonderful. So
it's just insane. I mean, I think personally both, actually all three, Picard, Lower Decks, and Strange New Worlds have been hitting it out of the park. For me, I think I'm putting Strange New Worlds on top of that list. Personally for me, Lower Decks is coming onto its own, but it's also serving that sort of filler. It's weird for me. It's kind of almost like a filler, but it's enjoyable, really. And then of course Picard, those moments, because it's the TNG crew, right? So, so I know you mentioned there in your work.
Yes.
What exactly is your line of work?
Aries cries. It's just about Aries cries out of joy every time Burnham is on screen. I love that. Shut up, Master Volsky. Burnham. My work. I work for this wonderful company in the cities next to where I am. It's about 35 to 40 minute drive from where I am, which is not too bad. I mean, working in the States where we drive it, the Americans' concept of distance is very different from everybody else's. But I work for this wonderful company, and it's been a great company to work for too, because I've had a lot of opportunities. So I teach English, which is ironic because I'm Scottish. But I teach English, and I get the opportunity to do a lot more as well with events, programs, and stuff. And this year, particularly, I'm actually writing a book, which is going to be an English learning book for basic learners, which is going to be good fun because I'm doing all the drawing and artwork that's going to go into the book, and the storytelling that's going to be behind it, which is something I've been looking forward to. So that's the big project that starts this year with my employment. I'm very lucky with my work. I mean, most people that are from my streams, that have been in my streams from all the way back to 2020, know that I was working for a company in the local city where I'm at, and the one directly next to me, and I took a massive gamble during the middle of the pandemic, the height of the COVID pandemic, when our restrictions lifted here in Slovakia, and I moved to another company in one of the other cities. And it was a big move, it was a big gamble, and it didn't work. So at the beginning of in the middle of 2020, at the beginning of 2020, I ended up with next to no hours because of my line of work. And then in the middle of 2020, I took the gamble to move, and it completely fell through. It was a disaster. The company closed. They completely lied to me, and I ended up basically unemployed. And at that stage, I went straight into full-time streaming because I needed the money. Right. I went into full-time streaming. I think I was streaming like 8, 9, 10 hours a day, Star Trek Online, to occupy my days, to try and see if I could make something out of it. And I think the statistics at the end of 2020, the Twitch statistics said that I was the top streamer of Star Trek Online. And I was like, yes. Never going to get me a hot tub. That's going to be the reality. But during this time period, I was looking for another job and applied to the job that I work for now and the company that I'm working with. And it was a great opportunity. I was really eager to get in the door. And ever since then, it's just been a joy. So I think I'm very fortunate. And it's taken time to build up the client base and get things running. And then I was given the responsibility of turning around a big project that they run through the summer, and I said that I could make it into a money-making situation, but you need to give me time, and I've taken a lot of time, and I succeeded. I was very successful at this, so I was I'm a bit of the golden boy. I'm the biggest troublemaker because I'm difficult to take, But you know, it's one of these things. I work for a great company. I teach English most of the school year, and then outside of the school year, we're doing events and camps and other activities for children to attend and stuff, which is brilliant because most of them don't speak English, which makes it exceptionally interesting. You know, when you sit there and respond to them in the very little Slovak that I know, and then in the particular area I work in, most of them speak Hungarian. So, you know, it makes it even more difficult. But I thoroughly enjoy my job. I really like working for the people that I work for. They're great. They're absolutely wonderful to work for. And they, like I said earlier, they give me room, which is really important. They give me room to basically just progress. And you know, my successes are also their successes. So, you know, they're very happy with that I am. And of course, it's very busy. This term has started. You know, just last week we started, and I'm very busy, which is a joy. You know, like when you are down in a place a couple of years ago where you are panicking, because I was panicking. I'm sitting going, oh my god, I don't have a job and I'm in a foreign country, and you know, the Slovakia is not the most welcoming to immigration. You know, they don't pay any, if you're not a citizen, they don't pay you benefits, and I'm not a citizen, I'm a resident. So you know, you're sitting there going, I'm literally got no help whatsoever, and it was a panic. It really was. And you know, 2 years later, I'm back above, you know, my head above the water with a very good employment and a nice place to work, and the opportunities there, which is great. And the opportunities just keep coming. You know, everything my boss throws at me. So, oh, do you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah. No, and the particular one that I work with, because it's a married couple, it's a private company, and they're married, and the two of them are great. And the wife is always throwing ideas at me, and I throw them back at her, and she's kind of been sitting there. I remember before the summer started, she had the moment where she went, "Where have you been all of my life?" You know, and of course I'm just like kicking about somewhere, you know, just walking through one door to the next until I got here. So it's been pretty good. So I'm thoroughly enjoying it. So that's been great. Great company, great people to work with, and the staff team is wonderful. But it's good to work for these people.
I won't go into some of the details you and I talked about, but what stood out to me when we were talking about is the fact that you do know their language, and you were sort of saying, if I remember correctly, something to the effect that you had to be very careful with certain words because they could mean one thing or the other, or a different sort of term referring to a he, her. I'm not something like that. And
Slovak has gender in the language, so you know, like when you are trying to talk to somebody, you really need to get this correct. And it also has this really strict formal and informal system as well, which is we do have this in English, but to be honest, it's not really used anymore. You know, like if you met like a gentleman, and you would say good day to them, or if you met a friend, you're like, hi, you know, and we do have this in English. It's not really that enforced anymore, but in Slovak, it's extremely strict. You know, if you are speaking to someone who is older than you or is in a higher position than you are, you have to add ch to the end of all the formal words. So, like for example, in like talking to a friend, say hi, how are you? You would say ahoy, ako sa masz. But if you're speaking to someone formal, you'd say dobry den, ako sa macie. Because that's the formal way to say it. It's very similar, and there's only slight changes, but you need to get this right. And then there's gender, and gender completely throws me. It's so difficult to follow. Everything that ends in an A is female, everything that ends in an E is male, everything that ends in a consonant is an it, depending on that. And even there's rules that contradict this as well, depending on what you're talking about and who you're talking to. So the grammar is exceptionally difficult. So you get a lot of these sort of mistakes when you are teaching somebody. You know, the flip side, you get a lot of these pronoun mistakes in the language when they're trying to get it, and it's a slow grind a lot of the time. And then of course, you know, there's this whole past simple, present continuous stuff, which for people that do not have English as a first language and maybe speak German, Spanish, Slovak or something like that, they will know what I'm talking about. But most people that speak English as their native language don't know what past simple is unless they're an English teacher. You know. And I remember the first time I came across this when someone asked me this question, and I looked at them and went, I don't know. Is that past simple or continuous present? I was like, I have no idea. I was like, I don't know. I need to look at what the rules are for this again because I really don't know. I don't have to think about it. Yeah, I don't have to think why I said did or done or does. You know, because it's just natural to my language. But that's the big challenges with teaching English in a country that has these things, you know, because it has gender, because it has, you know, it has words, and the structure of the sentence changes if you're talking about it in the past, and the structure of the sentence changes if you're talking it in the present and talk about it in the future, where we just change the word. You know, I'm going to the park, I've been to the park, I'm going to go to the park, you know. The sentence is essentially the same with minor differences, but in Slovak it's completely different, which is what makes it really difficult. I've laughed with a lot of people where I say Slovak isn't one language, it's like 5 mixed together, because you have to learn how to speak to formal, informal, male, female, and it. You know, and that's how you structure the sentences, and it's just bemusing. You know, ice cream is female. You know, and I sit there and go, why is ice cream female? You know, like, well, ice cream is a thing. Why is it not an it? But it's not as female, which means every word coming before it and after it has to be gendered into the female pronouns, which is a nightmare. And you get this wrong, and you look like an idiot. And you know, you get this wrong, and you get the formal, informal thing wrong, and you can offend people. And the other thing is obviously being a vivid Scotsman. I am an absolute filthy mouth person. You know, I swear continuously. Not obviously in class, but I swear a lot. You know, on stream I do all the time, and you know, it's one of these things. It's my culture. It's very Scottish of us, and you know, in Slovak you don't do this. You do not swear in Slovak. It is exceptionally offensive. You know, so you can't. You know, you tell someone to go away in English. You know, you just like go away. Yeah. You can't do this in Slovak. It's so rude, and the culture is different. So it's always one of these things. It's always a minefield, and always something to be thinking about when you're working. It's always.
And that's impressive to me though, because that, like you said, it's something you learned, and you had to learn really in your line of work, and it's very like learning a different language and then trying to talk. Because when I talk Tagalog, it's very simplistic, but when I tried to impress my wife, trying to speak full Tagalog to her, it was very simplistic, but there'd be these lag moments where you can see me downloading a file, you know, that paper that goes to that one file, like that was happening because I'd be like, yeah, you know, and she of course saw the struggle, but she knew I was born here. But for what you're saying is to learn not just a language, but also a structure, and that you also have to be very cognizant of how you talk to someone, whether it be male, female, and then of course the context of what you're talking about. That's just, it blows my mind, you know, and it's just it's super impressive. And you're teaching it. Well, you're teaching English, but
the other flip side is that obviously one thing you find with these sort of countries, especially around here, is that they teach what I would consider textbook language. You know, where it's grammatically correct. I've said this so many times to colleagues and things. They speak and talk and write so perfect, grammatically perfect too. And I will, you know, like someone will send me a message and I'll respond in like text message language, where you've got like WTF and R, like R, A-R-E, but it's just the R. Are you going to the shop? And of course, it's writing in text message language, and they'll respond like, what does none of this, what does this mean? And of course, you're just sitting there, like, I'm having to type in full words and sentences to make sure that people understand me sometimes. And obviously, Scottish slang is completely out the window. You know, I don't use any kind of Scottish slang at work a lot, unless I specifically teach them the words. Because there's certain things in Scotland that we would use, like wee, W-E-E means small.
Oh.
That wee dog, that wee shop, that wee walk. I went for a wee walk to the shop and saw a wee dog. You know, that's just normal for us in Scotland. But of course, they go, wee? What does that mean? You know, like, is it the game console? Is it saying yes in French? And I'm like, no, it's wee. It's like wee, like little. And then because they're like, why is it little? I was like, I don't know.
It is what it is.
And I've got students that I say this to. So there's words that I use, awesome. This is not in the Slovak language. The word awesome doesn't translate at all.
Oh, wow.
So of course I have to say to them that, you know, it's like, it's like awesome, like really, really, really good, and that's what it means. A wee, I use wee, and there's a couple of others that I use, and I means yes. and I try not to use a lot of this with people, but I've got a few folk, like a few of my colleagues are now starting to keep up with the pace that I speak, because I do talk fast, and believe it or not, I'm actually talking slow. Which is ironic, because most people think, oh my god, he speaks so fast, but I actually don't. I speak really slowly compared to how I would normally speak with like family and friends in Scotland. And it's been something that I've mentally trained myself to do. I did it when I worked in the US. When I first went to the US, and you land and you're like, all right, pals, how's it going? And that, oh, brilliant to be here. The weather's great. And people just look at you and go, he is speaking English, but we just don't know what kind. You know?
I heard great.
and you really have to slow down for people, because, you know, we do talk very quickly in Scotland. And I remember being in Ireland, I went to Ireland, and they talk even faster. You know, and I remember landing in Ireland going, oh my god, slow down. You know, so I can just imagine for some people what it's like listening to a proper Scottish accent and an Irish accent. I can imagine it's difficult.
I thought that was going to go into a joke there. An Irish and a Scottish man go into a bar. And then what? How are they going to go over that?
They're just going to come out extremely intoxicated.
No, I do appreciate I mean, Goofball even said it, that Goofball would be in your stream just to listen to you talk.
Yeah.
To be honest, I love hearing the accent. I'm not going to lie.
And my accent's quite mild as well. It's quite mild because of my experiences in work. So, you know, I remember I was sitting with a group of Slovak friends and sitting talking like this with them, nice and slow and pronounced, to make sure they understood everything I said. And then my mum phoned me. And, you know, like, my mum gets on the phone and she's like, all right, how's it going? I'm like, all right, Mum, how's you? Aye, no bad. You know, they just kind of looked at me like, oh my God. You know, and I'm like, yeah, it just kind of like quickly reverts back. And I remember once on the phone call with my brother, my younger brother, who asked me if I'd had a stroke. He was like, if you had a stroke, you sound a bit weird. And you're like, no, I just talk slowly here because no one would understand me if I don't. And it's kind of now stuck. It's kind of how I talk now. So it's only if I'm talking to friends and family that I speed right back up and start using the lingo, the you know, the slang and the roll of the R is a very Scottish thing, you know. Yeah.
Not that type of no.
But yeah, it's always good. But I like my accent now. I think it's much nicer to listen to. My dad actually says it's really nice. My gran, who passed away a couple of years ago, was like, you speak the best out of everyone. And I was like, yeah. I was like, thanks.
No, Master Dude, stop. No, I think that it's it speaks to the human experience, you know, sort of, where we have to adapt to our surroundings, right? Where we're, especially yourself, where you had to really make sure that you're cognizant of your communication with the people around you. You know, yeah. I think for me, I pulled this on, was it last week? I was at work and my mom called me, Mommy Triz, and I was in the office. Instant from English to flip Tagalog, and all three of the employees are just looking at me going, what, huh? And then as soon as I got off the phone, straight to English, and like, you're not going to just flip language and tell us what you just talked about. I'm like, well, no, that was just, you know, but there is a certain sort of adaptation to the people that you are around with, right? And yeah. You just have to. because especially in your situation where you've actually moved to a totally different country altogether.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I admire my wife for it because obviously she speaks fluent Slovak, and we could be walking around the shop or something like that, and we're talking in English, and it's just like switches and then back, and it's like a switch goes on and off and switches between the two. She's very good at that, and my colleagues at work are getting much better at it. Like I've got colleagues that. Now, obviously, I'm always like, standing going, what? If they're speaking in Hungarian or Slovak, I stand and go, what? What are you saying? And they change English. And they obviously they switch back and forward between multiple languages, sometimes 3 different languages. And we saw a lot of this in the camp. In the summer, you've got kids that will come up to you, and I loved it. Kids that will come up and just stand and talk to me in Slovak, and I just look at them and go, "I don't speak that language. Go away." No, because kids just will go, "What?" And I'm like, "I don't speak that language. Leave me alone." And then of course you've got staff members that are dealing with kids that are speaking in Hungarian as well. So of course you've got Hungarian, which is a completely different language and completely different structure from Slovak. And you've got staff that are like switching between Hungarian to Slovak to English, and you're sitting just going, it's actually I really envy it, because in Britain we don't really do a lot of foreign languages, not to a good extent, and it's I think it's really poor on our education system for that. I would have loved to have learned Gaelic, the national language of Scotland. It's been gone. Only 1% of the people speak it. And it's on road signs and things, and you're sitting thinking nobody knows what any of it says.
The road sign. Slow
it's
down.
On road sign. So, you've got the English, and then underneath it you've got whatever it is in Gaelic, and of course you're sitting going, nobody reads Gaelic, nobody speaks Gaelic. I would have loved to be able to speak Gaelic. I think that would have been really cool. Bearing in mind that the only people that I would be able to speak to in Gaelic would be Scottish people. But it would have been pretty cool. But as an old, I'm not saying that I'm old because I'm 38, but I'm at that older generation where learning languages is not easy, especially when you take a complex language like Slovak and Hungarian. They're in the top 10 difficult languages in the world to learn. And, I really envy foreigners. To me, like anyone from any other country that speaks more than one language, I absolutely envy it, because I think it's so cool. So people from Germany, a lot of people in Germany speak English, and you listen to them switch between German and English. It's just, I think it's a beautiful thing, that knowledge and the ability to switch between languages. I really do, and I think I really envy it, because I have really struggled with Slovak. And I've been here 5 years and I can barely speak it. I can say absolutely ridiculous things in Slovak.
You were taught the bad stuff first.
All the bad stuff first, and all the silly comments and stuff, which is great. But the grasping the language has been really tough. I thought it was going to be easy, and it's not been. And like when we were first making the arrangements to move here, and my partner Lucy said to me, "Nobody speaks English." And of course I was like, everybody speaks English. And then I get here and nobody speaks English. You said it's a generation that's young generation speaks English, but anyone 20 above doesn't,
right?
Or very rarely do, or to any good standards. So it's been massive overskill. Shut up.
I was just reading that.
I did.
That Herbie.
My mum was having a rant at me about not being able to speak Slovak after like 3 years of being here, and I said to her, "I don't have the money to do it." And she punted me a whole lot of money, and then the 10th anniversary when this bundle came out, and I went, "But." I was like, "I want that." Defiant with pilot abilities. That's sold. Yeah. Spent my Slovak learning lessons money on my 10th anniversary bundle for Star Trek.
At least she's not asking you to prove it to her.
Oh no, I told her. I told her. I'm quite honest with my mum. She was like, "You did what?" And I was like, "Whoops."
I would have sort of just kept that on the down low, but I mean, hey, you know your mom if you wanted to be honest.
I know my mom quite well, so it went down like the Titanic, but she got over it and she thought it was quite funny. But she knows that I love the game, so
yeah. and that's important. And you know, talking about Stowe, and this is one of the things I did have in my mind. So we're going to move on to the next subject, and I'd mentioned that even when you had asked me to do this, this was a lingering question, because to those who are in your Discord, you have, you know, sent a message, and I didn't want to sort of bring it up, but you brought it up.
Yeah.
So this next part, captains, I do really want to bring attention to this, because this is, I think, really important, and to the point where, you know, I can't say I've experienced it to, I guess there's always levels to this, but you know, you have been quite open, and so this question is going to be very subjective, of course, to everyone else in terms of how you handle it. But this one says, you know, you recently took a break due to your mental health. So the question is, how is it going now?
How's it going? That's a good question. Obviously, for those who are in the stream and are not in my Discord, I made a big post about it back in January. I would say I've probably struggled with my mental health a lot over the years, and I don't really know where it came from or why. I just have. And I think it's maybe a combination of things that have kind of affected me over time. And I got to my lowest point in life, I think, in 2015. In 2015, I was broken. I was just completely broken. I was lost, aimless, didn't know what I was doing with life. I had a really bad breakup at the time with a partner and things, and there was a lot of things that were affecting me. And I don't even know why, I can't really explain it. But in the July of that year, in 2015, I tried to take my own life. I attempted to commit suicide. And I was actually saved by my father. And the whole day, I can describe it like a dream. I can repeat, it's like a dream. Thinking back at it, it's like a dream, like it wasn't real. And at that point, that was at my lowest point. I remember, obviously, I was in the hospital. And actually, ironically, with just how the way that I am, and I laugh about a lot of things, you know, like I woke up in the hospital, very confused, in intensive care. And kind of just got up, took everything off me, and was like, I'm not supposed to be here, and went to leave. You know, and of course you've got nurses chasing you down the corridor, which is a dream for most men. And they're like, where are you going? I was like, I'm not supposed to be here. Of course, they're saying, no, you are supposed to be here. You know, and it was those moments. And then I remember, obviously, like I got some serious help. You know, and I remember the psychologist that I was talking to, and of course, you know, he was one of these sort of people that kind of just like he saw how I was as a personality, and I use a lot of deflection techniques. You know, I hide a lot of issues behind humor, and I'd said to him, I don't be here, you know, and I don't care, you know, and he was like, no, you do need to be, and that's why you're here, and of course I was like, okay. And I had to deal with that situation, and that was at the lowest point I think I've ever been. I ended up months and months later, after getting the help that I needed, tattooing the back of my neck, which hurt. And I put a phrase in the back of my neck which kind of meant a lot to me, which was, what defines us is how well we rise after falling. And I tattooed it on the back of my neck as a mental reminder that, one, that hurt like hell. And to always say that no matter what happens in life, the back of your head is the phrase, no matter how low you get, you know, what defines this situation, what you do about it, rather than not what you don't do about it. And, you know, that was a really low point in life. And I really struggled at that point. I then subsequently actually piled on a lot of weight, and I was about 118, 120 kilos. I don't know what that translates to pounds for those that people are in the stream, but about 120 kilos in weight and stuff, and struggled with a lot of depression stuff. When I moved here, I was on like the complete mend at the time. I think it was about 2018 that I moved. So complete mend and working on everything, which was brilliant. But subsequent to coming up to Christmas and the beginning of this year, there was a lot of things. It's about £264, right? And I was starting to see, because obviously when I was getting treatment back in 2015, there was a lot of things that we worked on, which was like things like triggers, things that would make me notice if things were getting into a bad situation. And one of the things that was one of the most profound things that I saw myself was that my streaming consistency had stopped, and I was no longer enjoying it. And that was something that was really killing me, because I love streaming. I love playing Star Trek Online. I love the community, and I love streaming. And when you are coming home from work and you're due to be doing a stream, and instead of being like, right, let's get this started, let's get going, I'm going to give everyone abuse, I sat there and went, I need to get this going. And then, because most people don't maybe realize this, as streamers, content creators will all understand what I'm saying, where streaming is extremely tiring. Constant engagement, constant entertainment, and keeping the engagement of a community is hard work. It's very mentally draining. And when you are going through a lot in your mind already, you don't need it. You know, you get one bad stream, or you don't get the numbers that you're looking for, or you hit the end of the month and you've not got enough subscriptions to get, your payout or something like that, and you sit and just thinking, why am I bothering? And it just puts you down and it knocks you down. And of course, I was being subjected to this, but it's technically my own fault, because, I got like a month where I didn't get my payout, and I didn't get my payout because I had missed 6 or 7 streams, and I'd missed 6 or 7 streams because couldn't be bothered. And when I felt like this, I was sitting thinking, if I can't be bothered streaming, there's a problem, because I love it. And all the indicators were there. I was stressed. I wasn't sleeping well. I was argumentative. I was short-tempered. There was all the sort of indicators that were giving me the warning signs that I was not coping. And instead of doing what a lot of people do, and I always say this to people, you need to talk to someone. Don't talk to someone that's a family member. For God's sake, don't do that, because it's useless. Because everyone that knows you or a family member is going to tell you what you want to hear. You need to see a professional. You need to speak to a doctor. You need to speak to a psychologist or a counselor, or someone that's completely independent, be it a priest, a Baptist. It doesn't matter who, just someone that's not biased towards you, and say what the problem is and see what they have to say about it. And I always say to people is like, if especially with men, because this is a real big problem with men. There's a huge stigmatism to mental health issues. Like the people, he's got mental health issues, cancel him. And I was like, we suffer just as badly as anyone else does, but we're just not allowed to. We're always being taught that we have to just man up and get on with it. And if you ever ask a guy, and anyone in the stream listen to this, if you ever ask a guy, how are you? And the response is, I'm fine. I can assure you that person is not fine. That person is battling demons that you just can't understand. And they don't want to talk about it. Because this is the problem. You can't talk about it with friends. You can't talk about it with loved ones, because you're just burdening them with your issues. And I was feeling this. I was feeling this. And that was the energy. And like when I got to the stage where, I was getting to a Saturday, and I'm supposed to stream all day, and then I'm like, nah. And then you get to the Sunday, and you get half a dozen messages in Discord, and people are like, "You all right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. And it was one of my friends that kind of reached out to me, and we spoke, and he said to me, says, "Are you okay?" And I went, "I'm fine." And he went, "No, seriously." It was that moment where you stop and go, well, no, because I'm noticing the problems. And for me, at that stage, when I'm at that stage, because I know what that led to the last time, but I didn't know the indicators the last time. There was a combination. So last time, boom, massive situation that nearly cost me my life. And this time, all those little red buttons and red flashing lights and little red flags were coming up. And I was like, you know what? It was a good thing he asked that question. Are you sure? Because I would have just flogged it off and kept going the way it was going. And the community, especially with Stowe, it deserves more. And any one of my fans and stuff, I always say they deserve more from me. And I sit there and think, if I'm not okay, then you're not getting the best out of me. And if you're not getting the best out of me, you're going to stop coming to the stream. You'll stop supporting me. Because I'm not being who I need to be, or what you like about me. It's changing. And I decided that time that I was like, right, listen, I need to step back. And it was a huge decision, and it was a heartbreaking decision because, I'm sitting there thinking, I love Star Trek Online. I absolutely adore my community. I love the Stowe community. I think it's one of the best communities on Twitch by far. And I sit there and think, and it was almost, it felt like a breakup. I'm sitting there thinking, I feel like I'm breaking up with a lifelong partner, saying I need a break. We need a break. I'm going to see other people. And it was heartbreaking, but it needed to be done. And I'm glad that I did. And I always say to people, if you need to take a break, because most of us will be here when you get back. And obviously, I'm hoping that is the case as well. And I see a lot of people in the stream today that obviously I've not spoken to, engaged with, and seen for years. And being honest with YouTube, wasn't it? It was everything. But it was one of these decisions that I made, and I don't regret the decision in any way, because I do feel that I would have just continuously just kept going to the point where I would have probably just given up streaming. If I just kept going, I would have said, right, no, I'm done with this because I'm not enjoying it. It's not giving me what I want or what I need. And because of my mood and how my health was at that time, it's been ruined for me. So as soon as I saw the indicators, I was like, right, I'm at the stage where I'm on that step. Do I keep going and see if it gets better, or do I say, no, let's stop now, go the other way, see what I can do about it, fix the problems that I have, address the problems that I have, focus on myself, and then come back to that door when it's ready to be reopened. And that's what I decided to do.
That's very personal and really, I know I've said this before, and I thank you for sharing that, because I think it is important. The type of level of my, I don't want to say depression, but growing up, and you kind of said it before, like coping mechanisms. My coping mechanism when I was a kid was I wanted to see others laugh because I wasn't happy. Yeah. And that had a lot to do with, family, and I've mentioned it on stream before. So I've, over the years, have found things that I needed to have in my life to cope with, to be able to deal with, however you want to state it in a way that works for you, have something to, for me, ground me, because it can get very overwhelming. And I can't say, and I remember Spencer saying to me one time when I first started doing this, because I streamed every day. But I streamed every day because, well, I played Star Trek every day. The only thing I added was the streaming aspect, and said, you're gonna get burned out. You're gonna get burned out. And till at this moment in time, I'm not. And I know some people have asked me because I've been missing streams, but I've only been missing streams just because of in real life stuff, right? Yeah. But in my personal life, I do have things that I can sort of just mentally let go, and and that's gonna always be different between people. So I guess where this is leading for me, because my let go is just my spirituality, my exercise, all that. What is it for you that you had to go to help you sort of, I don't want to say pull you out of it, but the break is there. Yes, you pulled away, but what was it that you had to do to kind of get yourself back to where you needed to be?
One is time. The most important thing is time, and that really does bug me a lot of the time. There's not enough time to talk about the time. It's not the time. Diana, really cool. It's time, because one thing that bugs me with mental health problems is when someone says, I'm not doing too well and I need to take a break, people think that this is like a day. You know,
Yeah.
I need a day off. You know, no, you don't. You need months off.
Mhm.
You know, you need a lot of time to reflect. I think one of the biggest problems is like I have to figure out what the issue is in my head and talk it out and say, right, this is what's bothering me and this is why it's bothering me. And these are all the things that come up with it, you know, and I'll get like the most ridiculous thought processes in my head and say, well, this is annoying me, and because of this, this is how I want to react. And, you know, and I have to go through the reasons why I want to react that way, and then I'll have to go through the process of saying, right, well, obviously that's not a great idea, because this reaction is going to end up with me in prison for the rest of my life or something silly. And, you know, I have to cognitively go through that process. And that is one of the things that I have to do. The other big thing is exercise. I absolutely love the gym and working out, and you know, this is my safe place. This has always been my safe place. It's where I go, where I feel safe. And I love to go to the gym, and I love to exercise, and I love to, you know, burn that energy out of my body. Where you get home and the next morning you wake up and you feel like you've been hit by a car. You know, you sit there going, oh my God, you know, I'm dying, you know, and then you just go back to the gym and you get it done again. Yeah. But I think for me, I have to talk it out with somebody that's impartial so that I can express my feelings in a way that, you know, come across where, you know, you're not expressing something that's going to hurt the people around you. Because this is what happens a lot of time, you know, you're like, I'm so angry about this. I just want to go and punch this guy in the face. And you know, that's never a good thing to tell family or direct friends, you know. But a professional or a doctor or something, you can say, this is how I feel. I'm not going to do it, but this is how I feel.
Yeah.
And if I don't get to talk about it, I'm just going to bottle it up inside and get more and more angry about it. And then, you know, that just repeats the cycle. The thing turns around again, and then you go back to the beginning and you start it all over again. So I have to focus on that. I have to sit and talk it out. I've many times found myself arguing with myself on my own. You know, just sitting, like, going through an argument in my head out loud so I can hear it and think, my God, that's stupid. You know, you say, oh my God, what a grrr, and I'm like, that's really stupid. You know, and just almost talking to yourself. It would be classed as talking to yourself in a way. But it just helps vent that anger and frustration that I've felt over the years with certain incidents and stuff. So, you know, that's my main points. And obviously hitting the gym, I'm a bit of a workaholic, you know, so I do bury myself in work and kind of take on a lot of work to try and hide behind the potential issues and say, right, okay, I'll just bury myself in work, and then I've not got time to think about it, which is the worst thing you could do. So yeah, hitting the gym and talking out the issues is the best way. Just so that, because I wouldn't like to say that I'm exceptionally intelligent, but I'm smart enough to know that if I go and do something, I'm going to end up in a lot of trouble. So, you know, if I can just talk it out with somebody that's not going to go, oh my God, I need to phone the police because he's talking about taking a butcher's knife and, you know, doing something stupid. And I'm like going, no, I'm just trying to express feeling, and, you know, like, thought process, and say, you know, that this is how it works. So that's why I always recommend to people, don't speak to family. If you're down, depressed and stuff, don't offload that onto the people that are closest to you, because you're burdening them, and it's much better to speak to a professional. I mean, obviously it's great to talk to friends and family, and there's nothing wrong with telling people that you're not okay. But I'll always say to people, don't, you know, offload the whole aspect onto somebody, because you're just giving them the problem that you're facing, where they might not give you the best answer. They might not give you what you want to hear. You know, they'll most likely just tell you what you want to hear. And of course, I've had this with people that I work with, where I've been described as brutal and honest, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need. And that's what I always need to find that person that's going to be able to do that for me. Now, I'm very lucky. I actually do have a friend that has that ability, and you know, she is wonderful. You know, I can offload my problems, and she'll just give me what I need to hear back, not what I want to hear. And I'm very similar with her as well. You know, when she offloads an issue to me, I'm just like, listen,
Yeah.
you know, you're not gonna like this, but right.
Yeah.
And that's always important. Talk it out, figure it out, and work your way through it is always the best recommendation. And if that means talking to a counsellor, go and do it. You know, especially guys, you know, if you're sitting watching the stream and stuff, you know, and you're sitting thinking to yourself, you know, you're not 100% or something's been bothering you, go and talk to someone about it. There's no shame in it at all. Absolutely no shame in it. And, you know, like the stigmatism towards mental health it needs to be dropped for men, because we can't be these big, strong, tough guys all the time. We need to make sure that we're all right. And you know, that is something that I think is important for people to grasp. You know, it's okay to not be okay. You know, and that is why, you know, in January when I decided to step back, I was like, you know, I wasn't. I mean, obviously I was devastated, but I knew I needed to, and I didn't really care if I was going to face backlash for it. You know, I'm sitting there and thinking to myself, I don't care if I face backlash for deciding to do what's right for me, because it means you don't really care about me if you have a problem with it. And I think that was one of the most powerful things that I worked on, because I do want to get back into streaming, and I do want to get back to the community because I love it, and I thoroughly miss it. You know, like I watch streams. People have seen me in the streams and supporting other people and hanging out. And, you know, when I did step back, one of the most humble and honoring things that I got, I think I got about 40 messages. You know, just people. And obviously I'd made a post, put myself onto Do Not Disturb, and was like, I'm stepping back at this point. And despite this, about 40 people alone on the first day that I made that post in my Discord sent me a private message. And some, you know, and the best thing about it is not a lot of them were like, you know, here if you want to talk to me and these things, and it was just like, we're here, good luck. And I really appreciated that. You know, that was what draws me to Star Trek Online and the community, because the community means a lot. And the strength within the Star Trek Online community is brilliant. And that situation where you say, right, I'm not okay, I need to step back, and people say, okay, man, you do that, and, you know, we'll be here no matter how long it takes. And that's really humbling. You know, that's one of the points where you sit and think, yeah, I must have touched people's hearts. I must be influenced, and people must like me, except for Simon, just because he hates me. But, you know, everyone else must love me. And you sit there and think, you get about 40 odd messages from people that actually care.
Yeah.
And you sit there and think, whew, you know, that meant a lot to me. And some of them, I responded to a few of them, and I didn't respond to a lot of them. And if those people are here, and you know, I didn't respond to you, it was not out of spite or hatred or anything. It was just because I needed to detach and get focused on what I needed to do, so to get myself back to this state, back to here, which was important. And in every sense, you know, everyone suffers in a different way. Stress levels are different for different people. You know, what I can deal with stress-wise, most people couldn't cope with at all. You know, I'm sure there's people out there that can deal with a lot more than what I can. And like I said, we're all different. We're all human. We're all in it together. That's why we need to start making sure that we're looking after each other, especially in mental health issues, because I think it's one of the most underfunded thing in anybody's society. In any country, it's underfunded. There's no funding for it. There's no support for it a lot of the time. And we really need to focus. And when somebody says, I need to step away, it could be for a day, 2 days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, a couple of years. But if they're part of the Stowe community, we should be here ready for them when they decide to step back in, which is something I'm looking forward to.
I think when you'd mentioned recognizing the fact that you were, and I think that's very important. And when you were talking about your friend that you can unload, you know, your problems to, or somebody you can just talk to, it reminded me of, and I've talked about it on stream before, my cousin Audie. When he passed away, it was really hard because he was like my older brother. He's my cousin. He's in the States, and I never had an older brother. I'm the older one of my siblings, and it felt like through the years, he's the one that gave me that sort of fatherly advice.
Yeah.
You know, and when he passed, it was really hard to cope with things that I was going through, because I can just call him and he wasn't there anymore. And to this day, I almost find myself just looking at his, his number. I want to reach out, but of course, obviously he's not there. And the other type of thing that I've seen in myself is when you had said talking to yourself, arguing with yourself. He would be there for me, but he would tell me when we would be talking at the end as well, Z, you already know the answer to that.
Yeah.
Because like what you said, when you would say something and then you went, well, that's stupid, right? But the point there is you needed to get it out. You needed to hear, like what you said, you needed to hear it, or someone to hear it and just tell you, dude, just no. Or dude, yes, right? Like, and
to be fair, I say a lot of stupid things, so it's one of those things where like, that's stupid.
That's important. That's really important to have. When you said family, of course, I thought of him, but he was very, like what you said, would tell me what I needed to hear, or just say, hey, you know the answer. I know you're telling me. I know I can hear your feelings, but you know the answer, right? And that's, I mean, well, yeah, I guess so. And it's funny because, again, when he passed, I found people coming to me for advice, and I found myself telling, well, you know the answer. And they'd be like, oh my God, you're right. And it's weird, that realization. It's just like, it almost felt like a circle in terms of, and
I mean, the benefit for that, though, Triz, is that his wisdom has passed on to you, which means he meant a massive deal to your life, which is great, and it's I think if we can find people like this within our lifetime, I think we are very fortunate. And these are the people we need to make sure that we cherish the most, because when they are gone, they're gone, and they're the ones that you feel the most when they disappear from the situation, and you sit and think, and I've had it in the past, I've had people that have gone, and you sit there and think, I would love to be able to sit and have another conversation with that person, just so they can tell me that I'm stupid. The most bizarre situation. You think, I really need to hear him tell me that I'm an idiot, just because, and I think that's very powerful. And it comes back to the whole situation of the fact that we do not deal with mental health problems, especially in male society, very well. And I think that we need to focus on it more and appreciate the fact that sometimes we're not all right. So
Akilagon asked something, I'm not sure if you caught it there on YouTube. When you were streaming, did you find the soundboard helping you, or did it sometimes just annoy the living hell out of you? I think hearing goats would drive me nuts after a while.
Oh my, I'll go back to actually. There's been ironically, like, because of the way that I am, I'm very trollish, and I enjoy the good bit of banter and abuse and stuff. And there's people that have seen some of my streams and be like, oh my God, like I can tear people apart very quickly. I'm quick with words and quick with thought process with it. So one thing, I used to love it because, like when I would come to the end of my stream and I would set up a raid, and I've typed in the raid thing, and I'm going, right, we're going to go and raid this person, like blah, blah, blah. It was almost like a queuing card for just about every one of my viewers to start setting off sound commands. When you're trying to say goodbye to the stream, you're like, right, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Oh my God, you're like, shut up. Find myself closing the bot that controls them occasionally, just going like, shut up, the lot of you. So I can say goodbye to you. But it's the same. I mean, like I've watched your streams and it's the same. You know, like you're sitting talking and people are setting things off, and it just engages it. Sometimes it isn't. It is. It does. It drives you up the wall. Sometimes you sit there and think, can you guys not have that moment, please? You know, and you know, but no, I think I take things absolutely so lighthearted a lot of the time. So it's, you know, if I'm doing the closing stream, because I did at some point on occasions, I did close the bot to stop people from doing it, because, you know, I'm trying to close the stream, say goodbye to everybody, and have a laugh and stuff, and you've got every sound command going off, and Simon this and the Aries, and you're sitting there just like, oh my god, man, you can't even get a sensible conversation of anybody live on stream. But no, I love it. I build myself off it, so it's never been a bother to me. Some people might find it difficult, but I definitely do. I mean, the thing I find more difficult is probably the dealing with other people in the chat. You know, I've found myself muting people. Like, shut up. You know, I'm trying to talk to the chat, which is why I don't have people on stream very often, unless I'm doing stuff that particularly needs teamwork and we have to talk to. Mm-hmm. But, you know, I've found myself just having to mute people or like deafen myself so I can't hear them and then talk to the stream again while folk are yabbering. But nah, it's never a problem for me. I think it's trying to find that balance that suits you when you get into the stream, if that's an answer for you there. Find a balance that suits you and what you're happy with. And if it means closing your bot in the last 5 minutes of the stream to stop the sound commands, then do that. But I mean, I don't. I enjoy the banter. Mm-hmm. I definitely enjoy the banter and I enjoy the engagement. So if people are interrupting me, I just find it funny. You know, sitting there going, shut up, the lot. You know, I'm trying to say bye and thank you, and you're all setting sound commands off. Get out. But yeah, I don't mind it. It's never a bother to me.
No, it brings, like I said before, it brings every sound command that goes off. Not only is it fun for me, but it brings me back to a place, a certain time. Mm. Even if it, and you know, and unfortunately there are some that actually I've had to put cooldowns on. And especially one as of late that I need to put a cooldown on, because if it didn't have one, there'd be a SMH face going off all the time. But yeah, for the most part, you know, I enjoy them, but it is hard to close off a stream. But what I just say is, okay, we're gonna raid. Whatever plays and gets cut off, that's your fault. You know, but there is a certain a redeem, Hammer Farewell, that when I play that, I've decided to turn off all the sound commands and just have that as the closing thing. But yeah, you know, I know though, and I'm not sure if you've heard this before, but I know there are commands that bother some people who are actually viewers. Yeah. You know, and it's funny because to me it's fine. It'll make me jump or startle, but you know, I try to be respectful to everyone and make sure when everyone's there on the bridge, you know, that we're all having a good time, you know, as best as possible. No, I did not, Master Dude. That's not cool. Stop it. Stop it. No, Aries, I really do appreciate that, because it is something that is hard to talk about, especially, like, it's hard to talk about sometimes for people to their own family or to someone near them already, let alone on a platform that is like this, right? Yeah. A social media platform. But I think it speaks to what you were talking about with the sense of community that you were that you missed. And, you know, to the point where there is a relationship formed there, regardless of how shallow or deep, that, you know, you can open up to them, to us. And it's really, you know, something that I can't say thank you enough for, because, again, not only has it been something that for you to talk about, but it has it's helping me. You know, because to a certain degree, it's hard to express sometimes. But when you're talking like this, I'm hearing you. I'm starting to think things in my head, you know, and it's helping me to, I would say, deal with it in a certain way, because it's never going to be as deep as, you know, we all go through our own little things like what you mentioned.
Yeah.
And I think for yourself to do this is just absolutely wonderful, and you know, I thank you for that, because it's very, I can't find the word, honorable is kind of what really comes to mind, because it's not an easy thing to do.
No,
You know?
it's not. I mean, like I say, I mean, I've had it, you know, obviously when I step back from the streams and I've been in other people's streams, watching the streams and stuff. And, you know, you decide, you know, I think I spent a couple of months where I was just lurking and I wasn't saying anything to anybody. And I was just watching the streams and doing the usual sort of support and maybe talking to people in the background a little bit through some communication. And then when I started talking in the streams, you know, as soon as you start talking in streams, and it's one of the reasons why I usually stay quite quiet in most people's streams, because as a streamer myself, I don't want the attention to come across to me when I'm in someone else's stream. And I've had that a lot over the years. And, you know, when I started talking, you know, like you've got everyone going, Aries, you know, hey, how are you doing? And stuff. And you type in. And then, of course, the next question was where people was like, come and join me on voice. And I was like, no.
No.
Not yet.
Nope. Yeah.
You know, not yet. When I'm ready to, I will.
Mm-hmm.
But until that point, no. Now, obviously, I've got a job to do. You know, I have to get my personal work done, and that's a bit different. But when it came to this, I wanted complete detachment. And, you know, there was a lot of people. Big Papa Tart, absolutely love the guy. And, you know, I was in a stream once, and he was like, come and join me on voice. And I was like, not yet. You know, I think the biggest step for me, actually, in the whole process of this was meeting Sphinx.
Yes.
You know, I went to Vienna to meet Sphinx and his partner, and I had an absolute blast. And it was so refreshing. And of course, me and Sphinx, we actually have each other's phone numbers. We talk on a personal level. We know most about our like personal lives and stuff. So we are very, very close friends. And what divides us is countries. You know, he lives in Norway, I live in Slovakia, but I can assure you that if we lived round the corner from each other or in the same city, we'd be hanging out all the time and at the pub laughing, because he's just that kind of person for me. He's like a really close friend. And I was just like, yeah, just let's go to the pub and go and get some beers and have a laugh and a joke. And I met him in things, and I was quite anxious about it, because obviously I had never met any of my streamer friends before. And I was always very anxious about it. You know, there's a lot of people that I would love to absolutely meet in person. You know, and I'd you know, just I was arranging for 2020 a big stream get together in Prague for everyone, and then COVID happened, so it kind of got shelved. And maybe it'll come up in a couple of years' time again. We'll call it ARIESCon, you know, because I'm not big egoed at all. You know, ARIESCon 2023.
Yes.
You know, it sounds like a plan. You know, so, you know, I met him, and it actually helped a lot, because obviously Sphinx has known me for a long time, and then we got together, we sat, and we just talked like geeks. You know, we talked about Star Trek, we talked about the shows, we talked about the game, we talked about Minecraft, we talked about stuff we were doing, our lives, and we went for dinner, went for drinks, and just had a brilliant laugh. And I think that was the stage for me. And meeting Sphinx and remembering the engagement and the sort of like conversations and the silliness to what he is like as a person. He's very like me. You know, we have a lot of personality traits that are very similar, and our styles are very different. What makes us good friends. And that meeting was the pinnacle point for me, I think, where I went, I know I'm on the right path. I know that I'm in the right direction, that I'm going, and I will be returning. And you know, I think it was maybe about 3 or 4 weeks later, I reached out to you and said, listen, because the thought process was back in that angle. I was like, right, I need to go in this direction. And now I need to take the next step, open the next door, and get ready for the next phase. Which was a bliss.
When
and like I said, we've got Mookow sitting there. Isn't that like us, Aries? Yeah. I think I'm very fortunate with a lot of the friends that I have in the community with Star Trek Online. It's what I love about the community as well. You know, I've got friends that I know on a very personal level. Mookow being one of them. I know all about her husband, kid, family, house, living, everything. and I actually have a private chat group with her and one of the other Vivid followers I've had for over 8 years. We've known each other. We all know each other's real names. We all know each other's personal lives and stuff. And that's been something that's been built up. And I think that's so important in today's society. And it's one of the things that I find so strong about the STO community. The STO community, I hear you saying this all the time, because I listen to your streams and I'm in your streams, and at the end, you're always like really grateful. And this is one thing that always kind of goes over the top of my head sometimes when I think about it, when you say to people, thank you. Because a lot of the time you don't always feel like they're actually getting how much it means to you. You know, and like, giving you the best example, you know, like the year that I was completely out of work, you know, really struggling with money, like struggling with the financial situation and stuff. And it was about, I think it was about a month before Christmas, my cooker exploded. On stream. You know, so I'm on stream, you get a huge bang. Like, what was that? And the cooker had exploded. And of course, I'm going, oh my God, you know. And I literally did not have the money to replace the cooker prior to Christmas. Which meant Christmas that year was going to be a microwavable meal. You know, because I didn't have the money to replace the cooker. And you know, I was sitting at stream just going, you know, you're having that moment where you're sitting there going, oh my God, what am I going to do? And you're live on stream. So, you know, you've got that one stage where you sit and think, I might have to stop the stream to go and think about this or deal with it. And I decided not to. And someone in the stream just goes, put up a donation bar. And I went, I can't ask you for that, guys. And they're like, just do it, Aries. So he put up a donation bar, and they were like, I pulled up a website, put it on the stream, looked at the most affordable cooker that I could replace the situation with, and I think it was like 300 euros or something. Not even that. I think it was like 60, 80 euros or something on sale. And I had the money within about 15 minutes. You know, donation bar goes up and every single person went, boom. And I went, you know, it blows you away, and you sit there and just think, I can't thank you enough. There's nothing I can do to express the gratitude that, you know, what you're doing there. And then I had one of those wonderful moments. Christmas Day. I always stream Christmas Day, so if anyone's there and watching, you know, I'll be live on Christmas Day for most of the day. And I had a guy that came into the stream, and he lives alone, and he plays Stow, and he's been a follower for mine for forever, since I can remember. And on Christmas Day, you know, after such a difficult year, you know, he turned around to me and he said, Aries, listen, you know, like, I've been watching you for years. I love your content. I love you. I think you're brilliant and stuff like that. And he donated me $500 for Christmas. And it just blew me away. I actually had to tell the stream I was going to the bathroom so I didn't cry on stream. Because what a year it had been. And I was just like, I cannot believe somebody out there has $500 just to do that with, and would give it to me because of what I do, and I can never get the gratitude across. And I feel this when you're talking, when you're saying to the stream, oh, like, thank you, captains, thank you for being here. I sometimes sit there and think, you know, you're constantly thanking people, and some people are like, yeah, stop thanking us. But I think that the community sometimes doesn't take in how much they actually mean to us. You know, you're more than friends sometimes. You know, you're just like part of us, and that's so important, I think.
Shadow.
Oh, look,
it's
Shadow
been a
post.
while. I know, Shadow, sir. Yes, Shadow. Hope you're well. No, I when I do that, it is because, you know, we all had to start somewhere when it came to streaming, right? And I remember when I started streaming, of course, to like the one lonely bot, right?
Yeah.
And then
I remember those days.
Right? And it started to build from there, and I'd like to think I am someone who am really grateful and thankful for a lot of the opportunities that come my way, and just the fact that I can nerd out, be myself, and play Stow and just talk, that is why I am grateful, and that's why I say it, because I am. And whether people kind of say, oh yeah, whatever, that's fine. At least I said my thanks, and I will continue to do so. Well, and also Mommy Triz said, be thankful. I'm like, oh, okay. And that's what it is. And, you know, again, with the Star Trek, and you keep saying Star Trek community, and it's this, you know, for me, a lot of the positivity that I have, other than getting it from, you know, my parents, is from Star Trek. So I want to ask you, what got you into Star Trek? Because that is a big part of what we're, you know, here together.
Yeah, it is. My dad, actually. My dad was, obviously, he came from the generation that watched the original series when it was on TV. So my dad was a massive Star Trek fan. My grandfather was actually a massive Star Trek fan too. So it was kind of just passed down. And then, obviously, you know, the next generation was special because a lot of people say this. I've discussed this a lot. Next generation was family time. It was always family time, you know. It was on Sky One at 6 p.m. On, you know, like whatever day it was, and you would sit down, you'd have dinner, and you'd watch Star Trek together. And I think Star Trek, for me, was this almost like an escape of sorts. I've always had quite rational thinking, and I was very different as a child. You know, I was, you know, very isolated at times and stuff, and always questioning why. You know, why are we like this? Why does this happen? Why is this a problem? I don't understand why we're having this problem. And then you get something like The Next Generation. And you remember the height of The Next Generation is the late 80s and early 90s. And they were engaging political issues and stuff that we face now today. Back then, you know, 30 years ago, they were talking about gender and gender identification and you know, people that have no gender and do have gender or have multiple genders and people that, you know, are men that are in love with men and women that are in love with, they were addressing all these things, and it was back in the early 80s and 90s when people in society weren't even addressing these things. You know, they're saying, oh yeah, you know, and of course, you know, it was always something for me. Now, I mean, Star Trek, I had everything as a kid. You know, I had the toys, the figures, the bridge sets, the starships, you know, the models, and, you know, I had all these sort of things. I absolutely loved it, but it was family time. It was sit down, have dinner, watch Star Trek: The Next Generation, and move on. And I absolutely loved it. And I think my mum enjoys Star Trek as well, which I think made it really special for the family because all of us were into it. And so much so that my mum even made us little cosplay outfits as children, you know. So, you know, we didn't buy them. My mum made them, so they had even more value to them. So they were made, and it was kind of that. So it's always been something that was on the TV. It was always on TV. It had Sky TV, so it was, you know, it was on like the main channels in the middle of the day, and then you know, it was the reruns were on some other channel, so you could literally watch Star Trek all the time, just about. And then when I hit my teens, Deep Space Nine started, and Terry Farrell was in Deep Space Nine as Jadzia Dax, and I fell in love with Jadzia Dax.
Mm-hmm.
She never knew about it, but she missed the opportunity, and I don't blame her. I'll hold it against her for the rest of her life, but you know, I was in love with a woman. You know, like 14 years old, I was absolutely in love with a woman, and you know, it was one of those things. I mean, I loved DS9, so it's one of those things that I've always been watching Star Trek, and I think it was my dad's influence that got me into it. And the whole family was in it. My dad was really into it. You know, my dad did that very common thing, you know, that happened at the time, you know, when Star Trek: The Next Generation started. It was not the same without Kirk and Spock and McCoy and Scotty and stuff. And then obviously a couple of seasons into The Next Generation, it really started to come into its own. And my dad was like, oh no, I really like this now. You know, and of course you're sitting going, like every Star Trek fan does. Yeah. So I think it was really my dad's influence that got me into Star Trek, and I'm quite grateful for it because I think it's just been a wonderful journey and stuff. And I'm still the same, you know. I watch Star Trek and they address problems that we have in society, and I sit and think, how can we not grow up? You know, as the human race, how are we still dealing with these silly problems that, you know, like have been addressed and we've been watching in in TV shows for years being addressed, and there's no problem with it. It should have been addressed and dealt with, but it's never been done for us. But you know, that was kind of that. Dwayne's got a point. I could never get into TOS.
Same.
I've watched a lot of it, but I can't binge watch it. I can binge watch any other series, but I can't binge watch TOS. I find it too cringy sometimes. I just sit there like, oh my god, the acting is so bad. But it was the message behind it. Gene Roddenberry's vision, which was the important aspect. You know, the man was centuries ahead of himself, and it was remarkable that his thought process was where it was. Back in the 1960s, you know, in the 1960s, he was taking things that we still have problems with today. You know, 50, 60 years later, he was trying to address it back then. You know, which is remarkable. So yeah, it was family that got me into Star Trek, and that's one of the reasons why I think it means so much to me, because it's family time. It always has been. Now, obviously, I don't sit with family and sit and watch it now, but you know, that's where the meaning came behind it for me. So,
and you're lucky, because I have no one. There's no. My mom. What is this? Is Star Trek's? What is that? No. What? No, that's not the. What? Why his head blue? Sandy. You know, and I try. My dad, definitely my dad. My sister. And then my own family, my wife. The only one that showed some peak interest in it was my son. He's actually got my 2 Diamond Select models in his room, the Sovereign and the Refit Connie. And and then I'd be playing Star Trek Online. He'd be like, "Oh, Dad, what's that? What ship is that? Is that a new ship or whatever?" Right? Other than that, that's the only one person. But then when I tell him about, let's say when I'm making videos or whatever, he's just like, you can just tell he's just going, yeah, cool, alright, you know, and then he'll just kind of go on his merry way. I'm like, oh, you know, and I think that's why it's important to me to have this time, you know, when I can be on the bridge, is that's the time, right? And like you have a legit connection with your family. I absolutely enjoy that. I just literally was flipping through the channel. I saw the Galaxy. I'm like, yep, I'm in love. You know, that's that.
Everybody loves the Galaxy class.
Like, it was just like, you know. But when it came to what you're talking about, like the meaning, the lessons behind Star Trek, I may not like TOS, but I respect it. I do remember one time on stream, actually, I think you were getting pretty heated when it became, I think it was a discussion about new Trek versus old Trek or something like that. And it became, well, if you don't like it, you don't like it, whatever. You know, there's don't watch it. Like, there's no need to, for me, I find myself in comments or when I see Twitter feed or whatever, like, don't get worked up. It's fine. You don't have to watch it if you don't want to, you know, and if it's something you can lean into, great, lean into it, you know. And I think hearing you talk about it, though, how and it connects to your family, it's just, it makes me jealous, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie. Well, I have no one here. I can talk to my bunnies, but they'll be like, they're just gonna like lick themselves and run away, you know. But
I think it was what was quite interesting about meeting Sphinx and his partner. You know, like the contrast between Sphinx and his partner is very similar to mine and my wife's. You know, my wife's and Sphinx's partner was very similar. You know, they were all talking about very intellectual conversations where me and Sphinx were like, "Did you put a torpedo build on this, by the way?" You know, and he's sitting there, you know, sitting just talking absolute nerdy with each other, which was absolutely brilliant. You know, which was one of those moments where you sit there and think, "Yeah, we're total kids."
Yeah.
You know? We've never grown up, you know, sitting there going, "I've never used that ship. I don't like it." You know, why? Because it just looks bad.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, well, just got a good bridge layout. I don't care about the bridge layout. It has to look good. You know? And Sphinx is like, it has to look bad for me. You know, I'm like,
well, what bad is to him is good. Like, and that's fine. Like I said, that's fine. You know, I may play up the fact that I don't like certain ships, but at the end of the day, you fly what you want. I ain't flying it, right? Like, I'll fly what I like.
One of my golden rules in Star Trek Online is that there is no bad ship in the game. There's bad builds, but fly whatever you want to fly. You know?
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
I was doing 90k DPS in the shuttle. You know?
Yeah.
And people were like, "What?" I was like, "I'm in a shuttle." They were like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because I feel like it." You know?
Yeah. And hence, you know, that's why I've been doing those sort of builds for the Star Trek Day stuff, because, you know, to me, it's just a different way of playing the game, right? We all play the game differently, but it doesn't mean that if I play it this way, you play it that way, that it's right and or wrong. The end of the day, it's for your personal enjoyment, you know, and if you can take some captains down with you, perfect, right? And if not, that's okay. You know, there's no need, again, like going back to the Star Trek debate of new and old, there's no need to get aft hurt. I'll just say aft hurt, you know. I feel odd when I say the other one, but that's...
I mean, I've had this, you know, it's you know, I've had people that come in that particularly hate an aspect of some of the new Star Trek, or, you know, like someone that, you know, like absolutely hates, you know, the Kelvin timeline or something like that. And of course, I'm saying just like it for what it is. If you know, if it's not your cup of tea, just leave it. What does it matter? You know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. So just get on with it. You know, I would particularly say I've not been a big fan of Discovery, and a lot of people know this in my streams.
Same.
And I haven't enjoyed it. You know, I've watched it because it's Star Trek. You know, I'll watch it and go, yep, don't like that. But on the flip side, the other shows I have really enjoyed. You know, so. And everyone's going to be different, you know. I thoroughly enjoyed Enterprise. I know lots of people that didn't like Enterprise, and the same with any of it. You know, like I've had people that have watched Lower Decks that can't stand Lower Decks.
Yeah.
And of course, I love it for its silliness. You know, it's got a great sense of humor, and it's just ridiculous and off the cuff, and the, you know, these sort of things I love. So let's say everyone to their own. You know, I'm not going to down on people that love Discovery. I know a lot of people that absolutely love Discovery. And there's been some parts of Discovery that I have loved. I've gone, I love that. And there's other parts where I sit and think, but that's just everyone to themselves. There's no point in getting upset about it. If you're getting upset about it, there's something seriously wrong with you. You know, you know, you need to go see a doctor. We were talking about earlier. But, you know, just take it for what it is, which is what I would.
Exactly. If don't like it, if you do, you do. Now, there's some of these been questions in the chat that I want to ask, and they're kind of quick questions, and I want to know your initial sort of thought, and you know, it should be natural anyway. So, you ready for it, sir?
Yeah.
Here we go. What is your favorite series?
Favorite series? Prior to Strange New Worlds, it was DS9.
Ooh, did you have? Yes, that's Strange New Worlds though. Ooh.
Strange New Worlds, obviously it's just out, so it's kind of in that sort of very new stage where you can say, is it nostalgic enough to be able to say it's your new one? I loved Strange New Worlds. I thought it was very, very well done. Absolutely well done. Loved the casting, loved the crew, loved everything about it. Thought every episode was brilliant. Standalone episodes, which was great, but obviously tied into a greater picture, was wonderful. Good writing, very, very good writing. I loved it. I love Pike. I saw a wonderful meme of Pike next to Johnny Bravo.
Johnny Bravo, yeah.
because you know, when he featured in Discovery, his hair was combed over, very similar to mine, but a little bit higher. He's been now in Strange New Worlds, it's getting higher, and of course we're like, season 3 of Strange New Worlds is going to be him looking like Johnny Bravo with a giant big quiff, which I absolutely love. But no, I've been very impressed with Strange New Worlds. But if I was to say standalone prior to it, it was absolutely DS9. I just loved DS9. I loved everything about it. It was just a great TV series, and obviously it had Judzi Adaxi, so you know, you cannot beat that. No. I mean, like, I do remember crying my heart out when she married Worf. And then when she was killed in the second last season, I genuinely think I actually cried. I think it's a bubbling mess. Like, why?
I'm right here for you.
You know, my mum's like, it's just a TV show, and you know, I'm shouting at my mum at 14 years old. You don't understand. You know, you're like, what? The character, the person didn't die. The character did. And you're like, all right.
So that's your series. Okay, how about favorite ship?
Ship, I'm tossed between two at the moment. My favorite ship by far is probably the Defiant. And one of the reasons the Defiant is one of my favorite ships is because it actually structurally makes sense. Everything else doesn't. You know, scientifically. The Defiant scientifically, structurally makes sense with its shape.
Except the bridge.
And it was just badass.
Yep.
You know, it was absolute bad. There was no warships, so it was badass. But I'm also very, very fond of the Equinox, the Nova class. Featured in Voyager as the Equinox was the first time it was seen on screen. It was one of the concept designs for the original Defiant. And I absolutely love the shape and look of it, and they've done a wonderful job of the special skin that you get in Star Trek Online with it, and I absolutely love I love the ship. It's the one that I play the most because I love my build on it. I've got a really fun I've got a build that's a mix of EPG, torp, beams, and cannons.
Let's go.
And it can throw out 550k DPS.
Let's go.
So it was one of those things that's exceptionally good fun. And it's one of those builds that people go, wait, what? You're like, yeah, I can make it work. And it's going to need some tweaking as well because I've got some new things to work on. But the Nova class and the Defiant by far are the two favorite ships in my Star Trekking extravaganza.
Okay, so now personnel, favorite captain.
This is gonna shock you because Tumor Boy once asked me this question on stream, and I gave him an answer he wasn't expecting. Because it's Captain Jellicoe.
Oh. Yeah, no, it wasn't because it's not the main captains that you normally think of.
No. And the reason I like Captain Jellicoe was actually an extremely good captain. And he was more an old school Navy captain. And in the episode, I think, in fairness, he was a character that could have been reused and could have had so much more rather than just the cameo of 2 episodes. And they could have done a lot more with him. You know, he could have featured in DS9. He could have been in Voyager. He could have done a lot more. And they didn't take that opportunity, and I think it's a shame. But I mean, as it goes for captain, I think he was a fantastic captain. And in the episodes he's in, he's portrayed as the protagonist, bad guy. Actual fact, he's not. He's the hero, and it's complicated because Riker's actually the problem in this because Riker doesn't do as he's told, and becomes, you know, and they write in that he needs to come to Riker and apologize and do things. But if you actually look at what Jellicoe achieved in 2 episodes, he averted a war with Cardassia, which saved millions of lives, and he negotiated these terms under very strenuous conditions, knowing that they had the upper hand. And obviously, one of the reasons he was changing things on the Enterprise was to get it ready for war. So, you know, as a leader, I think he was a brilliant leader. And his lore is used later on in DS9. The lore of who he is as a captain is used later on in DS9, which is absolutely brilliant. And you know, he was a very, very good captain. And he's not portrayed as one. He's always perceived as the bad guy in those episodes, where if you actually dismantle what actually happens in the episodes, he's actually one of the best ones. And I think he was absolutely brilliant. He was in Stargate. He was brilliant. The actor's brilliant. I love him. And I think he was a missed opportunity in the Star Trek franchise as something that could have been a lot more. So I love Jellicoe. I've always been a big fan of Jellicoe because everybody hated him, and I was like, no, why is everyone hating him when I saw what he was doing different?
Right.
But if it goes for any other captain at any other stage, obviously, I absolutely loved Ben Sisko. Ben Sisko for me was the epitome of manliness.
Captain of the Pimp Hand.
He was a very well written character, and I loved his development to a state. Single dad up against it, his conflict with Picard, which was brilliant, and in the aspect that Picard was loved by the fan base. In the first episode of DS9, you've got Ben Sisko being awkward and difficult with him, you know, so it was one of those things you sit there and think, wow. And Ben Sisko's character development was very good. You know, from coming in as a commander, and then you saw him building up and progressing through to being a captain, leading the war against Dominion. Brilliant. So it's a mix between the two. I'm always going with 2 because I can never decide, because I love everybody for their own reasons. You know, you love Kirk for whatever reason. You love Janeway for the qualities that she had. I think, But if I was to put my foot on it, I really like Jellicoe. I think that was a big missed opportunity in the Star Trek franchise.
You're right. That actually did shock me.
It did. And most people
didn't expect that.
Archer was Archer. I loved Archer too. Archer was great in character development.
Had his weird isms, a little too much isms, but that's okay. That's okay. How about first commanding officer?
First commanding officer. I think the new #1 from Strange New Worlds.
Oof. Una.
Yeah, I like her.
She's
I like
good.
the actor, and obviously, because obviously in the original pilot of TOS, it was Gene Roddenberry's wife that played #1, and obviously, you know, you get a stupid comment in the 1960s about having women in the bridge.
Yeah.
You know, which is set 700 years in the future. You know, like I don't think you would be having that problem. But I mean, she was a wonderful person anyway. But it's nice that Strange New Worlds is at that part because now we get to see what #1 was, and it's new and never done before. We know what Commander Wrecker did because we got God knows how many seasons of TNG that we can go from. And a lot of the other commanders, you know, it was, for DS9 ended up being Commander Worf as the first officer, essentially. And in Voyager, Chakotay I thought was bad writing. I thought he could have done a lot better. And in Enterprise, you've got Commander T'Pol or Trip, who were fantastic characters in themselves. But I think at this stage, because of how much I've enjoyed Strange New World, the opportunity to see what #1 could have been has made her like top of my list of favorite second in command officers. Which
very strong.
It's given the character new life, which is a testimony to the situation in the pilot, which is nice.
Written well, done well, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tactical officer.
Favorite tactical officer would have been Lieutenant Yar.
Dang.
Despite dying to a big blob of tar, I thought that I thought she was gorgeous.
Tar. Yeah, no, she was. I will say she was one of my crushes when I was growing up.
She was badass. You know, she was badass at the start, and then obviously, you know, the actress has had her own issues and decided to go and do her own thing, and ended up out. Which I have blamed the entire Star Trek uniform on Natasha Yar. Everything that happens in the Star Trek uniform is in the universe is basically Natasha Yar's fault, because she decided to go off and get better acting jobs, which didn't happen. And then came back to her daughter. But you know, inevitably, I thought she was absolutely badass. Worf is probably. I mean, Worf being a Klingon, ironically, gets beaten up a lot.
Yeah.
You know, coming from a warrior race, he's always getting his ass kicked.
That's true.
It's always one of those things. Just like, I thought he was supposed to be tough. Yeah. But yeah, definitely Tasha Yar to start with.
Okay, I probably know this one, but science officer.
Oh well, Jadzia Dax.
Okay, I had to, right? It's on the list.
You had to. That's gonna be.
It's on the list there. How about Helm?
Helm, probably again, Ortega.
Ortega, yes.
Yep, Ortega. I love the actress. I think she's brilliant. And then it's the haircut. The haircut's brilliant. And it's the cheeky smile. It's that smile when she knows she's pushing the limits with Pike, and does it anyway and pulls it off. You know, like when there's one of the scenes where they're fighting and he's like, oh, "Don't get hit," and she's like, "Well, I'm going to do a pack, you know, offensive maneuver Ortega 1," and of course she's like, "What?" And then she's flying the ship like an absolute badass. And you sit there like, oh. And she's great too. I mean, the character's brilliant. So I'll take that. That's a big one for me.
Medical officer.
Medical officer, I would have to go back to Dr. McCoy. But from the Kelvin timeline. Oh. Not that the original timeline is wrong, but I saw a wonderful interview with Leonard McCoy once, not with Leonard McCoy, with Leonard Nimoy, that when they were talking about the recasting and how they were doing it, and he was actually in tears because the remake was so good, and the actor that plays McCoy in the Kelvin timeline actually did such a good job. He had Leonard Nimoy in tears, just with the memories of what a time they'd spent together with DeFrost Kelly and how things had gone. And it was an absolute testimony to the character.
There you go.
Carl Urban, yeah, he's brilliant. And I think he does such a good job at the character. You know, he's brilliant. You know, you know, I'm a doctor, not a torpedo specialist. You know.
Yeah, no, he does a good job.
And I think he did an absolute. I think it's because he did such a good job of it, you know, that he becomes the one that I sit and think he was good, and he was good for that reason.
Mm-hmm. Engineer
Jordan LaForge. Jordan LaForge.
Yeah,
Him engineer explaining everything in the most technical terms of absolute jargon, I think was brilliant.
Yeah.
I loved him. I loved the character too. I think it was brilliant.
I never asked this to anyone. Admiral.
Phew,
I just thought of that.
that's a good question.
Yeah. I just.
I don't know. I don't think any of the admirals, because 90% of the time in TNG and half the other things, every admiral ends up being a protagonist, and you get sorted out by the captain involved. But the recasting, the casting in Strange New Worlds has been
April.
good. April.
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking that.
Yeah, he's a good casting, and I know, and obviously in the comics and the animated series, April is white.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously he's cast as a black actor, which I think is brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the actor as well, so I think that's a good casting, and hopefully we'll see more of him in the next season of Strange New Worlds. Definitely not Admiral Kirk.
I forgot to turn that off. But I turned off. I'm so sorry. That was supposed to be off. Oh.
What have you done?
Sorry. I thought I turned off all the sounds. Someone just literally played Scare the Crap Out of Triz.
I don't hear it because I'm not listening to the stream, but I've got it.
Dear Lord, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
No, that thing was turned off. Oh God, I'm sorry, Caps. Sorry, Aries. Woo! I think I have to change my uniform after that one. So Admiral, I think yes. Holy jeez, the Admiral April, sort of came out of nowhere, and I think I love the relationship between him and Pike. It was very short, but you can tell there was something there.
I think it was short and to the point, which was exactly what was needed. It was like, by the way,
Yeah.
You know, there's a level of mutual respect there, and you can see it in the characters when they're talking to each other. It's been very well written and very well acted in my opinion.
It made me. I'm so sorry, Captains, on both, especially on YouTube. You don't hear that a lot. That was on Twitch. That is my fault. I apologize. I'm probably going to hear it in the comments later when people Captains. McStud, Mr. Elf, thank you so much, Cat. I love you guys.
If you will come with me.
So the next, I love that. I love hearing those moments. There is still this one left. So what was your favorite? Two more. What was your favorite show? In terms of moments, show moments.
Show moments. One of my favorite parts comes actually from Discovery, which will be a surprise to most, and I think it's because it's so topic towards things that we're facing today, and it's with Stamets and the young girl that comes off Earth. I can't remember what her name is. Because I've never been great with it. And Stamets is in the engineering bay giving out orders to get things sorted out. And the young lady at the time turns to Stamets and says, "I would prefer if you called me they and them."
Adira?
Pronouns. And this moment for me is one of the things that obviously right now is a big issue in today's society.
Mm-hmm.
And they're addressing it. Now, one of the things that I loved about this moment is that Stamets looks at this person, smiles, and says, "Okay." And that is such a powerful moment because he doesn't apologize. Because he doesn't need to. And that's something that I want people to understand. You know, if somebody corrects you with their pronouns, you don't need to apologize. You just need to accept it and do it. And that's what he does. And that's such a strong moment where you sit and think, oof, that is such a resonating strength in what is important today, which is why it's in there, which is brilliant. That's been one of the best moments I think I've ever had. And then the most heartwarming moment I think I've ever seen, which obviously did lead me to tear up, was Q
Yeah.
at the end of the card. You know, when you put together that Q's dying. Spoiler alert. If you haven't, and he's saying his farewells. You just sit and think, what a powerful character that's been in he's been in everything throughout the entire journey. He was never in Enterprise, but he was in, TNG, the DS9 and Voyager, and he is saying goodbye. He's not just saying goodbye to Picard. This is the thing. He's saying goodbye to all of us. And that's what makes the moment so powerful, because he's not coming back, and you sit there just think, oh my god, what a moment!
Yeah, I cried. No, I cried.
I had that moment, where you sit there and go, oh my god, and it was brilliant.
Yeah.
And it was very well done, and obviously I've seen all the cut scenes and the clips and stuff when they were finishing, and Patrick Stewart's in tears, and he's in tears, and everyone's in tears, and they're all shaking each other's hands and stuff, and that moment there is what makes Star Trek special.
Mm-hmm.
When you can reduce an entire fan base to tears over one line.
Yep. I'm not crying, you're crying.
Yeah, one of those moments. When you can reduce an entire fan base to tears that knows what that moment means, that's powerful, and that means something. That's strong, and I like these kind of moments, because I think it really changes, and people really step up and say, wow. And that was cool. There's my favorite moments. They are heartwarming moments, and then you've got other things, like when the Defiant goes blasting through a whole load of Jem'Hadar ships and saves the day. These moments are great as well. But these sort of things are the things that really stand out.
Okay. Well, mine. I'm going to just throw this out there. Also, that it brought me to tears was Hemmer's farewell. That was crazy when he went. But how about episode on this last quick fire? What's your favorite episode that stands out to you?
I don't know. I mean, my biggest thing with Star Trek is I can just rewatch it all the time. So I can't. I think I go through stages of nostalgia. When I sit and see something, or something reminds me of something. Like there was something that I was watching, and I think it was when the Nebula class was done, when the reskin of the Nebula class was done in Stowe. I was off watching, TNG when Data is in control of a Nebula class and stops the Romulan invasion.
Oof, love that one.
Great episode. But so I think for me, it's always one of these things. I think it depends on my mood. But Star Trek is the only thing that I have been able to repeatedly binge watch. I watch something and I'm done with it. I've seen it. But Star Trek I can always go back to. And I always go through stages where I start going back through this series, and I do it in a cycle. And there's episodes I'm going to skip, and there's episodes that I'm not going to skip. But I mean, if you're talking about how the series goes, I really enjoyed the Xindi War with Enterprise. I thought that was brilliantly written.
That's some good pews in there too. Like they're old school phaser, photon, the darting in and out. That I love that war. Okay, so we're gonna. Aries loves the episode where the Defiant infiltrates the Gamma Quad with a cloak device in time and reports a resounding success. There's a lot, there's a lot of moments in that where you can pick, but I guess mine, I'll just let you know, is Survivors from TNG.
Yeah.
I don't know why that episode just does something to me when I hear the alien telling Picard how he lost his wife because of him, and all he's doing is just recreating this small little land of plot, just plot of land to be with her, quote unquote her. That I don't know why it just does. But we're gonna shift into Stowe, and this sort of kind of is gonna start in how you got into Star Trek Online.
How did I get in Star Trek Online? Well, I mean, that and content creation. I was
Content creation, yep.
I was streaming World of Warcraft. I had a friend that used to stream, and I used to join him. And the people that used to join us always used to say, "Dude, man, you need to stream yourself because you're funny and you've got a great personality, and do it. You'll be popular." And of course, I did. I was an absolute World of Warcraft fanatic, and I'd played Star Trek Online just after it had become free to play. So I had an account, and then of course I drifted away from it because I was a World of Warcraft player and hardcore World of Warcraft player. You know, I was like, you know, end game raiding, you know, big raiding teams, elite stuff. It was all big high levels. And I started streaming, and of course I was streaming World of Warcraft for like 8 hours a day with nobody watching. And you know, you'd have that one person that would come into your stream and say hi, and you would interrogate them. You know, you'd be saying, "Hi, viewers, stay there, please stay, and talk to me for 5 minutes. And where do you live? And what's your name? And what's your bank details? And tell me all about you. Don't leave. Please stay here." And then they would leave. You'd go back to sitting by yourself. And it was kind of killing me a little bit, because obviously I had a friend that was streaming, but he'd been doing it for a while, and he had like, you know, say about 11, 12 viewers that were very dedicated to him and very, you know, good with the chat and stuff. And I was getting nowhere. And I'd been binge watching one of the Star Trek series, and I sat and I was, you know, watching. It was like the war or something like that, Dominion War, and I was watching it going, "Oh man, to fly defiant and kill everything." I was like, I used to play a Star Trek game. I wonder if it's still there. You know, a couple of years later, after I'd stopped playing it, and I think Delta Rising was just the expansion. So I'd been away for a few years from it. You know, I started when it became free to play, hadn't really done much with it, kind of drifted away from it because I didn't understand it and hadn't got anywhere with it. And because of Warcraft, I was never really that dedicated. And then when Delta Rising came out, I was like, oh, that's just got a new expansion too. So let's download it, start playing. My old account's there, my characters were all there, or one character, because I only had one character at the time. And I went back into the game at Delta Rising, and I started streaming it. And the first day I started streaming it, I had 9 viewers. And of course, I was just bemused, you know, like from going 8 hours a day in the World of Warcraft with no viewers, you know, or occasionally one that didn't include myself, you know, to suddenly have 9 viewers and have people talking to me, you know, going, "Hey man," and then of course, you know, it just built from there. And you know, I sat there and I was like, well, if I'm going to play Star Trek, I might as well stream Star Trek. And I used it as a tool to learn how to play Star Trek, because I had no clue when I started. You know, I was running around with daft builds and green items and grey warp core and rubbish, and I couldn't get through the basic you know, I couldn't get through the basic story arcs, let alone do anything special. And you know, have people in the stream talking and educating. That's where I learned how to Star Trek Online. That led to me meeting everybody that I've met. You know, I met Yosuke HG, an absolute build master, to Augie, to all these people I've met through Star Trek Online, which leads on to the GXA and all these members and everybody that we all know has all been through that. So because I was streaming it and people were starting to come and watch me, I spent some time learning it. And then once I'd learned how to do it, that's when I started offloading the information to others. And that's when the streaming really kicked off for me. Because it was not just about enjoying and playing the game, it was about enjoying the community as well. So that's kind of what really got me into Stowe and kept me in Stowe. Because it was just a game that I would just be coming back to and playing all the time. Because I actually just loved it. And because I'm a massive Star Trek fan, you know, it was I can fly a starship and blow stuff up, I'm happy.
Done.
You know,
sold.
That's it. Sold. Which is brilliant.
And then you can put it into a spacebar, so it even makes it easier, so you can just concentrate on flying.
Yeah.
That just makes it easier.
Made it even easier.
So how about when it comes to whether it be when you started or until now, the negatives and positives of Stowe?
I think the biggest negatives I think I've expressed a lot. I mean, one of the biggest problems I think still has, it doesn't really have an end game. And you know, it doesn't have this constant end game, you know, like a lot of the other MMOs. But you also have to understand that Star Trek is a free-to-play game. And I think that's one of the biggest negatives. If Star Trek had a subscription, I think less people would play it. But it would need end game essentially raiding. And I do kind of miss that with the World of Warcraft, because I enjoy the end game raiding style, and Star Trek doesn't really have this. So I would say that was the biggest negatives. I think the other biggest negative that I've seen in Star Trek is the lack of interest in PvP. We'll touch on later, but I think that's the biggest negative. So I think the other biggest negative I think that Star Trek Online has is that the community's suffered a little bit, and you know, it's now classed as an old game. The engine that runs it reasonably well, but there's no way to change it. So it would be a concern if it was ever to just stop. I hope not.
No.
But I think the biggest negative is that there's no end game, no official end game anyway. There's lots of stuff that people do, but no official like raiding titles, or you know, that you must go out and do this to achieve this, and there's not that in the game. I think that would be the biggest negative.
Okay, Wizard Girly Aries, if you know how to play still, maybe ask you to teach Triz how to play it. Wow. Wow.
Wow.
It's never gonna happen.
Yeah, you get a million DPS and you're still classed as a noob.
I don't do DPS. How about the positive stuff?
I think the biggest positive about Still is the community. Is the fact that, one, it's a game that's reflecting on something that I absolutely love. I can go through stages with Star Trek. You know, like at one point playing Star Trek Online, I used to skip through all the stories and look for the green words. You know, just be like, yep, green words, go blow this up, get that. Yeah, and I was never interested in the lore. And I'm sitting on stream going, why did this happen? How is this tied in? and you know, you're sitting with people that are going, well, if you'd listened to the bloody
Stop it, guys. Stop
and you're like, oh yeah.
Stop
and oh, there's some stuff going in there.
Stop it. Nick, Augie, stop it. Okay, so this is actually one of the things that also I was looking forward to talk to, because you already said it, but so my experience in PvP, the first person that actually took me underneath their wing in Zero, shout out to you, sir. He was like the first one that gave me free stuff, free everything. He loved and enjoyed PvP.
Yeah.
And
yeah, big guy in the community.
He would take me out. You know, he built me up, and I got to a point where I actually got decent, because I went for like a beam overload at that time. It was back in like 2014, and then of course he dropped off. When I started Star Trek Battles, there was a mention of let's try PvP, because there's always this one constant, let's try it. So it almost mirrored what you guys do. When I saw you would do tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 stuff, you would just use common weapons or blue weapons or whatever. So yeah, I want to know from you the state of PvP and how it sort of came to be to how it is now.
In a sum up, it's a flipping disaster.
I didn't expect that.
I mean, obviously, I wasn't massively into PvP prior to not playing the game before Delta Rising, because I'd never got to end game. Because I was still leveling up. So I got into PvP during Delta Rising, when most PvPers from that generation will tell you that it was ruined. And I think the biggest problem with PvP, first thing that always comes into mind is the lack of knowledge from the devs for PvP. They're not interested in it. And this is a huge negative for the PvP community, because it is actually quite a fun concept. The space battles in PvP is probably one of the best and engaging combat systems that I've ever played in any game. You know, it's absolutely brilliant the way that it's constructed. The problem that PvP has is that it's so unbalanced and now ridiculously resource heavy. You know, and now, of course, before anyone jumps on, because I know that I've got some really good experienced PvP players that are sitting in the stream, because everyone's like, oh, you have to pay to be a good PvPer. No, you don't. You have to have good amount of resources and know how to fly. That's what's the most important things to PvP. You know, like when I remembered my first ever PvP event, and I got into the PvP community, and I've been in it ever since. I actually threw a tantrum. You know, I got into the PvP thing, and it was a disaster for me. And I threw a tantrum, and people were like, there was some people going like, "Well, get lost then," and then there was others that kind of went, "Well, he's got a point." You know, and I kind of was like very, very badly deceived to what the expectations were, just to get me as one of the numbers into the groups. And you go out, and I think the very first battle was reasonably good. And then after that, you know, you had these absolutely hardcore PvPers that have been in the game since forever. They can look at your ship, recognize what abilities you're clicking, and counter you like that. You know, you're out of the game straight away. And you get farmed, and you lose the match 15-1. And I remember the game that I was playing. You know, I didn't know what the invincibility trait did, because I've never come across it, because I've never needed to come across it. And I'm chasing someone around and keep zeroing them, and then by the time I could get them to zero again, the trait had come off cooldown, so you can never kill the guy. And then of course you've got builds that you can't even target the people. You know, so I think the biggest problem that you've got in the PvP at this stage is that there's too many things that are so unbalanced that can be used to just make trollish builds, or just builds that you're never going to be able to deal with properly without really knowing the extent. And I remember this, you know, I was in a big fleet, and I think like 15 of us went down to Karat, and it was one of the first times I discovered that there was actually an open world PvP zone. You know, there's an open world PvP zone? How did I not know about this? And I went in, and we got farmed by 2 players. 15 of us, completely farmed by 2 experienced PvP players. And you know, that was absolutely devastating. And then of course, obviously, I got into a bit in PvP, and then went into this big competition. At the end of it, I went ranting, because it was horrible. And I'm sitting going, you're not going to convince people to play PvP if you're playing against people that you can't target or you can't even kill. It's pointless, because it's boring. There's nothing, you can go in and hit the respawn button 15 times. You're not going to learn anything. It's just boring. But subsequent to this, I am one of these sort of people that after my frustration is gone, I sit there and go, why did I lose this? Why was I not good enough? And, you know, from there, I start talking to people, I start learning, I start going into the zones, taking folk on, taking advice, looking at YouTube, looking at builds that have been in there, talking to people. And he's actually in the stream, Master of Overskill was one of them, because obviously when I ranted about it not being an enjoyable event, because I just spent half the time respawning, it was just because I couldn't kill anyone. I didn't understand why. You know, he was one of the ones that actually reached out to me and said, if you need any advice, talk to me. And the one thing that I love about the PvP community is, despite the fact that it gets a bit of a bad rep, it's actually extremely friendly, because we're desperate for people to play PvP. And, you know, at the state that it's in. And we discussed this on 10 Forward with Kale, you know, because, you know, like I did it because I'm one of these sort of protagonist sort of people, where I went, is there any plans for PvP, you know, with Kale live on 10 Forward? And, you know, it's like, you know, I could tell in his eyes that he died inside when I asked that question. And it was like, oh no. And you know, you had other people piping in. You say you need to take down, you know, placates and things that, and of course I was like, you can't, because a lot of these abilities come off ships that you have to pay for.
Yeah.
You know, or come out of lock boxes, or you come from the Zen store, or come from low-buy stores. So you can't take these abilities away, and we're at a stage in the game where it's nearly impossible to balance it. And that's the biggest problem. You can't balance it now because of the aspects of the content now. And the one thing that I love about the devs is they go, by the way, we're going to introduce this new console, and it's going to do this, and it's going to be so cool. And it is. Sitting there like, boom, oh, that's a fantastic console. But when you combine it with this, and this trait, and this ability, and that, that weapon, it becomes completely overpowered in one aspect of the game that they've not taken into consideration. And the reason they're not taking it into consideration is because they've not thought about it. And why? Because it's not a concern. And then somebody somewhere is sitting going, either way. And I love this because you get people like Augie and Nick's here and other people that will look at combinations, like, advanced weaponized trait and with this trait and this penetration trait with this ability with the arc and the beam overload with this and I find this fascinating. People can do this because I can't. I really can't. Most of my theory building is based off other people's information, and these people come up with it and test it and say, and you're like, oh, this trait with that trait with that trait with this skill with that ability with this bridge officer's thing, you can make a tank that never dies. And you sit and go, why would you need a tank that never dies? That just because, and you just sit, and that's why it's such a bad state. Which is why, in the STO community, the Star Trek Tactical Operations Armada, which I'm part of, we have the restricted builds set up. So we have builds. We have full-on endgame tier 6, full-on builds, competitions and matches. But we also run tier 1 to tier 5 with the restricted builds to stop this from happening. So that it's more about piloting skills than it is about what you've got. Which is why it's been exceptionally successful. And it's Lord Leopold, who is one of the leaders and group leaders from the Sad Pandas and the Pandalorians fleets, which are 2 PvP fleets. And he's been behind it with a few of the other, veterans of the game that are big PvP players, and that sort of stuff has been really important.
You see that?
Master, yes, it has been, and there's reasons for it. If you haven't read the announcement channel just now,
Oof.
Master of Overskill.
Yeah, I find that PvP, to me, and you kind of said it before, it is boring. And not the fact, like, there was a time, like I said, when I learned what I learned from Zero before, that people would PvP me in the group of people that I played, and I wasn't bad, but I wasn't good, but I found it boring because you can sit in a match almost for like 10-15 minutes on just one kill. Circling back and forth, whatever, doing the dance, and to me it was like, okay, well, if I don't enjoy it, I'm not going to play it, but I'm not downing it, and that's why we did sort of PvP sort of bit like restrictions like you guys did. And I did watch one of the streams that you guys had, Lord Leopold had on there, and we were having a good one. Yeah, you guys were having fun, and and that's what I always say. It's just it's almost about just trying to find like-minded captains. You want to go wreck, pixels, go high-end DPS chase, nothing but you got people that can do that. You want to do PvP and just have a friendly match, and you guys got what you're working on. So I just never. I remember when Invincible trait came in, and I heard backlash from a lot of people, and it was from the PvP. Friends that I played with, and then there was like a string of ships that were released, lockboxes, C-store, when it would.
Exodus Street was the next one.
Yes, that was like, it was about like, well, that's gonna suck in PvP or whatever. You guys are not considering PvP or whatever have you, and it made me sort of push that to the side because that's not. I don't live in that sort of space.
And the irony of all of that situation is, I'll say like Invincible trait is a nightmare, and Exodus, and I run a build with Exodus and an Invincible trait, and it's one of those reasons. The reason I do it is because I struggle to compete with some of the bigger players, the bit high end players. And Master of Overskill is actually one of the best PvPers that I've ever played against, and he's in the stream just now. He's absolutely wonderful. Piloting is absolutely second to none. And I've watched a few. He's got a YouTube channel, and I've watched a few of his replays and just been like, his piloting is brilliant. And it's one of the reasons why I like pilot ships, because I spent a lot of time working on my piloting for PvP, because you have to learn how to roll in behind the person to hit them in their flank, which you need to do with the roll abilities from pilot abilities with some builds. And if you're particularly doing what we call a dogfighter build, then that's quite important. And these are the big things that I find. One of the biggest problems is there's no content for PvP. There's no reason to do it. You don't get to end game, and the game, I don't even think it does it anymore, because at one stage of the game, that used to say when you got to maximum level, it says go visit Karat and do this, and you go down there and get farmed by somebody and go, haha, no. And that's what's one of the biggest reasons why people are so put off with it. The community is actually very friendly. I'm not saying it doesn't have bad apples, of course it does. And you get those people that are very trollish and people that are extremely rude. Of course, every community does, and because the PvP community is particularly smaller than any of the rest of the communities within Star Trek Online, it gets that really bad reputation, and it shouldn't, because I've always had great experiences with the PvP community. I think they've always been very friendly, very helpful if you're looking for advice and help, and if you're looking for matches or to test builds. You can always find someone that you can message and say, hey man, you want to go and fly around the map and shoot each other for the next 30 minutes achieving nothing, just to see if my build works, so it's a community that suffers, I think, a lot in the game, and the lack of content is the biggest killer for me.
Yeah.
When the endeavors come up, when it says participate in a PvP match, it should say win a PvP match, in my opinion. But it's participate. And the problem that you have with this is like any of the other endeavors, like, go and restore your shields. What do? You go down with an engineer with a shield generator and sit in a pool of acid on Nakara for 2 minutes. And the job is done. You don't have to go and do anything else. So when it says participate in a PvP match, you'll go into a PvP match, which are all running and running. And, the PvP community comes to life and goes, Endeavor time, we're going to get like 100 matches over the next couple of days.
Let's go.
Let's go. And we do. We get in there, and I play match after match after match just because they run. But you will come across those people that are just doing the endeavor to get the endeavor done. Yeah. So they warp in, they go away, they make a cup of coffee, they come back, they've died 4 times, and the match is over. And that's where the disappointment comes in, because you sit and think, well, there's no real push or desire for it. There's no need to.
Yeah.
And then when you look at the things like where they introduced the competitive TFOs, these are the best TFOs in the game. The competitive TFOs.
They are fun.
They are exceptionally great, and of course, in one of them you can go and blow each other up.
Yeah.
So of course, you can kill each other on the ground TFO, because you can shoot at each other on the platforms.
Yeah.
And you can in the particular one with the racing, you race all the way to the end and you have to destroy the warp core. You can just go after the other team. And that's quite fun. The TFO can end up lasting 20 minutes because you can just go and blow each other up and none of you can kill the thing because you're just shooting at each other, because that's fun. I see that as quite a good laugh. So the competitive TFOs are one of the biggest disappointments now, because they never run unless you put 2 teams together, or they come up on the Endeavor list and you go and jump into them on the Endeavors. And of course, I hate them on the Endeavors, because you go into it and nobody knows what they're supposed to be doing.
No.
You go into the ground one and you get people falling off the platforms and stuff, and you're just sitting there going, how do you not know how to do this? And of course, it's because they never run. People don't know. And it's such a shame, because I think they're such great TFOs. And I actually did once suggest to Kale that they altered the TFOs so that you could do it as a time run with a team of 5. So instead of having the 2 teams, you just do it as a timed run, and you have to get it done within a certain time scale so you can actually run those ones. Because there's no way to get the elite mark from those anymore.
Yeah, wow.
So if you want to use all the competitive reputation gear, it takes forever to do it, because you have to do it, and it was a suggestion that's never been listened to. The Gamma Mark 2, swarm. Swarm repeatedly.
Swarm. I mean, it's hard to get that, like what Master Dude said when we were trying to get that team. It just takes forever to get a team together.
Yeah.
And I remember you and Sphinx would stream at the same time, and even then, still, you guys would have like, you know, between the two of you, like 50, 60 people watching, and it would still be like, hey, anyone, hello.
Come on, don't make me rant on stream, please.
Like, I remember when you saw my name, you're like, Triz, you're coming along or something. You pulled me into one and a couple, and you know, it's hard to like them because of the attention, like you said it, like the attention that they've been giving, which is none.
Yeah.
You know, and it'd be nice if they would somewhat give it attention, but to where the spaghetti code, I keep referring to this, the spaghetti code now is, it's like, it's almost too far gone for the devs to balance anything. And when they do, it's like they make one quote unquote community happy, the others, you know, sad. Because I think that's why Feedback Pulse, I thought that's why Feedback Pulse was sort of changed.
Yeah.
Was it?
I mean, I think so. I mean, they nerf one thing and something else is affected by it. And someone's always going to be upset, which is why I think they just don't touch it now. A lot of the time. It's just correcting bugs and things. They just don't alter a lot of things anymore unless it's dramatically got a problem.
Yeah. Come Bandy's pet. They're just having fun. No, I really hope that in the next year something would come up again for like a new TFO for PvP. Somewhat. The problem is I don't like it how they had to be like 2 teams to pop. I don't know, could you do something with 5 so that you don't have to? I don't know.
You can queue for the teams individually, so you can queue. So the queuing system in the game has the individual queue, which means you can't make pre-made teams, and then it has the pre-made teams queue. So you can make pre-made teams. But, you know, outside of the Endeavor, these things will never pop.
Yeah.
They'll never go because nobody's doing it. There's not enough people, unless you have a group that goes, right, let's do it. And like you're saying with any situation now, if you make a TFO that is, you know, PvP orientated, it's not going to get played and it's just going to get complained about, because you will have PvP players that are running top end builds
and just
go in
vape everyone
and just completely annihilate everyone because they want to play the game. And you get this in the Endeavor. You know, in the Endeavor, you'll go into pre-made teams that are fighting each other. Then the matches last forever. Or you'll go into the random groups and you'll have 3 or 4 guys maybe that are playing top end builds and charging around, and whenever they come across someone else, they, you know, like I've had it, you know, like I've gone in and seen like 3 people that I've gone, oh my god, I know those people, and gone after those ones instead of the people that quite clearly I don't know and don't have the thing, and just going after the PvPers rather than the randoms that are joining, instead of farming the randoms, going after the experienced players.
Yeah.
But then that takes a mentality to do that. You like spawn camping. You know, you shouldn't be doing that. You know, that's just bad juju, but people still do it, you know. So I think at this stage, the biggest problem with PvP is that there's not enough content. There's no desire to play it. There's no reward for doing it. And there's no way to solve the unbalancing issue. There's just no way to solve it. And the only solution that I would suggest, which is exactly what we have been doing in the PvP community that we've been doing, is the pre-made builds. And, you know, like we ran our first tier 1 was brilliant. I used the Bird of Prey, you know, the bot, absolutely gorgeous little ship, tier 1, beautiful. And we have rules on what items you can use. You can't use traits. You're not allowed to use this. You're not allowed space traits. You're not allowed reputations. You're not allowed these things. And you're not even allowed specializations. So you have to go through a little routine of getting rid of your specializations, which can be done as well. And you run out, and it's all about piloting, which is brilliant. Obviously, there is people that are good with the builds, and they can use combinations to still be better than most others. But I think the aspect of this is that it's reasonably balanced, and it doesn't take a lot of work and effort to be able to participate in it. You know, new players coming into Stowe are going to have to spend months and months and months farming resources, because you need this trait, you need that ship, you need that ability, you need this weapon, you need that. and it takes time. You know, like I have these items because I've been playing Stowe for a long time. I also have a lifetime membership, which has given me the advantages of having resources that I can tap into. You know, when I've needed to get low buy to go and get, you know, the Zal, to get the invincibility trait, I've been able to, because I've been able to spend my Zen on keys and sell the keys or open the keys to get the low buy that I've needed, or sell the keys to be able to buy the ship off the exchange. And that's the biggest problem is the resource heaviness for end game PvP. Is a big put off. And like I said, if you go into Karat and you go in there and you get killed within like 2 seconds, you know, you go and start flying and go, oh, where is everybody? And a vapor build decloaks and goes zaboom, and you're dead. And you go, huh? You know, and then you respawn. And it happens again, and then you respawn, and it happens again, and it respawns, and it happens again. It's not a big enthusiasm.
Nope.
There's no enthusiasm there to go, right, this is something that I really want to learn. You know, I think I'm unlucky in that sense that after the match that I participated in, and I had my little rant, I have the personality trait to say, why did I don't like losing at all. So of course I was like, why did I lose actually? I want to know why I lost and why this ability didn't work and why that was effective. And that's maybe a bit about me, but not everybody has that. Most people will go, thank you very much, no thanks, I'll have to do something else. Woo, look, new uniform for this, Space Barbie, great. But you know, I think PvP has potential, but in the state that the game is in, it doesn't. If it's design builds, and I said restricted builds and design builds, and very similar to some of the new story arcs and missions, you know, like you go in and you've got a set build and stuff like that, that would be quite interesting. That would be an opportunity I think that they could explore into, just to get it going. And then if they could give out rewards for it, you know, if they were doing set builds and you got competitive marks, and the elite marks for participating in it, that would be something that I think could work for it. But you know, this is not something, when people say these ideas, if they do have this idea, they probably do. And it's sitting on a table somewhere, because it's not just a simple case of clicking your fingers and putting it into practice. You know, it'll take potentially years to develop.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I says the state of PvP at the moment isn't great. But like I said, it's more about the community now, because obviously we, as a community, in the Starfleet Tactical Operations Armada, we are working very heavily at getting events running that people can get into and participate in and not feel like they're completely engulfed in a level that they can't compete at. And then we build it up. We educate people to move to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. This is what you need to aim for. This is what you need to have. Go away and get it, and then we'll get to the next stage and
go away.
Do a lot of work on that, which is great.
Go away, go get it, and then come back. I thought Karat actually was. I didn't even know it was a PvP zone, so I was quite surprised when, like the first couple of times that I went there, I was just pew-pewsing the board, and then the next couple of times I just like, why am I dying? I can't even reach the board cubes, you know, and
someone was after,
I like that idea that you had mentioned about the whole pre-builds. Like, just go into one, you're given a build, y'all are even, go at it. Show the skill, not what you really have. Like, you know what I mean? So I totally agree with that. And
put it down to the piloting rather than the what you put on the ships.
And I think that's great. But hopefully, I mean, you know, one of the questions I had also was, what are you hoping for new Stowe content? And it sounds like that's kind of one of them. Just more stuff for PvPers to have to do, because it sounds like you'll just really. And how many maps do you guys have, right? Like, in terms of
PvP, there's two. There's a space map, an open world space map, and there's an open world ground map, which most people don't know exists either. And then there's obviously the queues, but the queues don't run. The maps are there, but the queues don't run. Because obviously there's no one doing them until you get endeavors, or you're organizing matches
with everyone who does PvP.
Yeah, with everyone that does PvP. So, and that's the biggest problem, is because you're not getting a fresh load of people into it, like you do with other things. You know, you go into an ISE, or an ISA, and you get one person that goes and blows everything up before anyone can fire a shot.
Nick, what?
Hey, someone will start turn around and
Answer.
say, "Oh, I want to be able to do that," because they're experiencing it. So they might message them, or they might watch their streams, or whatever the circumstances be. But PvP, not so much.
Yeah.
And I said to the PvP community, because I am very reluctant to stream PvP content because I know it's not popular.
I was about to ask that too. Like when it comes to when you return, is that something you were going to?
If it's in aspects of the restricted PvP, the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 stuff that I have been doing, yes, I think I will stream that.
It is.
Because
I like watching that.
But that will be at the end of my streams, because they usually kick off near where I'm usually finishing. So it'll be an extended stream watching that stuff. And if people don't want to watch it, they're welcome to leave type thing. But as it goes for full end PvP, tier 6, pre-arranged matches and teams, absolutely not. Because it's not content that people enjoy watching at all. And it's not really the content that I've ever enjoyed streaming, particularly. So it's no. Unfortunately, it's tough on the PvP community, but there's no way that I would endorse that at all. Because just nobody watches it. You can go from 30 viewers to about 11 in the space of about 10 minutes.
It's the PvP viewers, probably.
So viewers, yeah, it just kills your viewer count. So it's not something that's ever interested me. And obviously, there's communication required and teamwork and everything, and you pay less attention to the stream. So
I remember when I was PvPing with my fleet, and I kind of saw it with you guys. Was you would focus on one target, which makes sense, right? You wanted to take out whoever, and then, but then again, what turned it off for me was the length. It's definitely the length.
In the top game, you've got one player that you're going to focus on, and if you can get him to the Zal trait to trigger for the invincibility, then you instantly have to target someone else for a couple of seconds before you're going back to that person to stop him and kill him, and it takes a lot of coordination, and it does put a lot of people off, because it is hard. It is very, very hard, and it's something that I am nowhere near good enough at to play at top level of PvP, and I've played against people that are like, "Oh my god, Aries, you're such a good PvP player," and I'm like, "No, I'm not." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I've got a good build. I've got a good build based on advice, and I've got so many people around me that I'm very fortunate that I'm a good part of that community, because when I look at the players that are around it and who has the advice and who can play and who knows, I'm lucky that I'm friends with a lot of them. Because you can just sit there and say, like, I was doing this and it wasn't working. They're like, "Oh, they were probably running that," and you're like, "Right, how do I counter that again?" And they're like, "Oh, you need to use this, this, and this." And you're like, "Right, sorted." And again, you go back into it and you learn from there. But no, it's not great content to be streaming.
No, but so okay, now where do you see? And this also kind of goes to what we were talking about too, with all the Trek going on. Where do you see Stolen in 5 years?
In 5 years, I mean, obviously the new content that's coming out periodically, which I kind of like this. It's instead of giant big expansions, we're getting like bits and pieces every so often to draw us back in and draw us back out. And I've really been enjoying the latest content with the Mirror Universe stuff. I've really been enjoying that. That's been cool. And I have left some of it to do for coming back into streaming. 5 years, I pray to God that the game's still on. I don't really care so much if it's the same stuff. Obviously, there's going to be story arcs. I very much doubt there's going to be anything PvP-wise. There's going to be lots of new Space Barbie, and with the amount of the one thing that's really healthy for Star Trek Online is the amount of Star Trek that we have on the TV.
Yep.
All the new series, all the new stuff, it's bringing new content to us all the time, and a lot of people are missing this. Like every time Discovery has another season, there's going to be new ships, there's going to be new items, there's going to be new stuff, new missions, Strange New Worlds can bring some of that to us. It all depends on licensing and what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do. And there's always going to be stuff coming. So as long as there's still stuff coming, I don't really care where it's going.
Yep.
As long as there's still stuff to do. And as long as I can log in, blow some stuff up with some friends, and have a laugh, You know, I'm happy with that. You know, so as long as the game's still going, I mean, maybe one day eventually they'll remake Star Trek on a different engine and update all of it. I don't know.
Oof.
I would love to see that. I think they could do so much with that, but at the current state and stage where it's at and how it's run, I'm reasonably happy. There's a lot of bugs in the game. There's a lot of things that are wrong, a lot of things that are right. But as long as the game's still running and I can log in and fly a Nova class or a Defiant, blow stuff up and have a laugh and talk to friends, I'm not overly concerned where it's going to be in 5 years, as long as it's still there.
I told Spencer if he could put this on his private server at the state as of right now, I'd be happy. And kind of the same sentiment there with you. And I think even if, let's say, the shows would stop, before Discovery came back on, if we can recall, they were just pulling out stories from anywhere. So what I think is going to happen, for me personally, is if Star Trek currently now stops, they still have so many things they can kind of jump off of in terms of Strange New Worlds, Discovery, Picard, or whatever. So, I mean, I conservatively said 3 years. Spencer said initially 10 years. But then, you think about it now.
I see it running for another 10 years at least.
Really? This is my first MMO.
And despite the fact, obviously, the engine is dated and stuff.
Jeez.
But I think that the state of the game is healthy enough for it to justify. Now, obviously, we have seen, and people that have played the game for a long time, we know that the dev department has been cut and cut and cut and cut, and there's less and less and less of them, which is actually testimony to the work that they're putting in to keep it coming, keep the work coming. And Tumor Boy was in the stream earlier. Obviously, he's one of the environmental artists, and his work is absolutely phenomenal. I've watched his streams, and I love his work, and them and a couple of others that have been working on content and stuff that we see today. I still see them pondering away at it in 5-10 years time. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be a game that's ever going to have an end game. I don't think they're going to be able to fix PvP to a way that's going to keep everybody happy. And I don't think they'll ever get to a stage where they'll say, right, that's it, we're shutting it all down. I just don't see it, not with how much Star Trek's on the TV. If anything, we'll maybe see a new version of it.
Yeah. Could you imagine someone coming up with a new Star Trek MMO? Oof.
Yeah, I would love that.
Competition is healthy. Right?
Absolutely.
Like right now, I wouldn't consider timelines or fleet command a competition to stow. But
no. But I mean, if they took it with Gearbox and did it with Gearbox, I'd be quite happy. I'd since take it forward with what they've got now and redevelop and build something from scratch. It's going to piss off a lot of people that have spent money in the game. Is there a way to transfer the stuff? Who knows? Maybe there will be.
Yeah. Even if it's like a flat fee.
Yeah.
Like a code or something that you can pay. Let's just say, throw a number at $100. Stow 2 comes in, bare bones. You can't automatically bring things over, but you can pay for it, and it would unlock tier A, tier B, tier C items. I think I'd go for that.
Yeah, personally. I think I would as well. I mean, with how much I play Stow, I would definitely go for that.
Yeah.
So.
And then I think that would be awesome. So now, captains, we're almost here at the last couple of questions here. So I would say if you had any questions for Aries, why don't you put them in chat? But I'm going to still ask a couple of mine because what I want to know is, so this is the reason why we're doing this is because you mentioned this is going to be the start of your return. So when did you plan on starting again fully?
I am planning to be back next Saturday.
Look at that. We didn't even have to wait that long. Let's go.
I have been working on, in the background, obviously a lot of people have noticed that my artwork has changed. I've been working on animations in the background with one of my friends who has got the animations that I started before Christmas and never got around to actually finishing. They were a little bit rushed, and I wanted to finalize them and make them a bit better. One of the reasons that I have decided to go with such a prominent son back is that Starlink became available in Slovakia. And everybody in my stream knows that I suffer from exceptionally bad internet.
Yeah.
You get a storm and the stream's over. You get high winds, the stream is over. And Starlink is now available in Slovakia, and I have forked out quite a bit of money to get it. And I am literally in the installation process to get it up and running and get things going so that I can use it. And it's got such a better connection than I had before. So I will be returning with a better connection, a better standard quality, brand new artwork, and a hell of a lot to do.
Yeah.
Because I haven't done a lot of the new content since January. So, and I've got new builds to work on and redevelop builds with different aspects and some stuff. So I've got a lot to do and work on. And I decided that I was going to do that next Saturday. So Saturday, 4 p.m. UTC, which I think is going to be about 2 p.m. GMT, and however else that works for everyone else, is when I am looking forward to starting my first stream back for the last 8 months. I think it's been 8 months. So I'm looking forward to getting back online and seeing all the usual faces and start the banter and insults that can go with it. You know?
Simondis is like itching to
yeah, I'm sure he is.
exclamation FYA.
Yeah, absolutely. FYA.
I think when you stream on Saturdays, that's literally morning time for me, and that's why when I'm driving around, I'm able to kind of, I'm able sometimes to kind of plug it. So that is something to look forward to. So Captains, next Saturday, Aries is going to be back. Twitch and or YouTube?
Just Twitch just now.
Yeah.
I need to test the system and see how well it works and all the updates and changes and stuff. So I'll be on Twitch first. And if it's powerful enough to hold, then I could possibly start on YouTube as well. But I prefer the platform of Twitch. I just do it. It's where I've always been. Yeah, absolutely. I miss Master.
I was about to say, is that a question?
So yes, I'm looking forward to a return and getting back into things.
I've been sending him my own recordings of it. So, when it comes to coming back, now, was there any plans? Like, I guess you can use this time, of course, to let us know. Other than streaming, was there anything else that you were going to be working on?
I'm kind of probably the most lazy content creator that you can ever come across. I did have this huge plan of doing videos on YouTube about ground builds because I quite particularly enjoy ground on Stowe, and I've worked a lot with a couple other people on building incredibly good fun ground builds. So maybe doing that. I'm thinking about getting back into. I'm thinking about doing some content creation on that as well, about weight training and exercise and my journey. Because obviously I said when earlier in the stream, for those that maybe had missed it, that I have lost an incredible amount of weight over the last 5 years, coming to Slovakia and changing my diet and my health and doing exercise and working on that. And it's something that I enjoy, so I might start doing a bit of content creation on this as well. And obviously just the work, I'm obviously just very busy with work and starting this book that we're going to be looking at over the next few months, and it's going to take us about a year to create it. So there'll be that journey as well, all the way, which people will be catching up with and letting know what's happening. And then obviously, like I said, I'm a bit out of date with my meta builds. My meta builds are a little bit out of date. I'm still using Ox to Bat. And I started copying one of Spencer's builds, for the torpedo build. And I got all the items, put them in my bag, got everything that I needed, and didn't do it.
I remember you telling me. I was like,
like every time I log in, I look at the is it the Delphic torpedo or whatever it is, and look at it and look at the combinations and go, oh yeah, that was for that torpedo build that I really wanted to put together. And it was one of these things that I've got a lot to do. I will possibly stream a lot of Minecraft as well. I play a lot of Minecraft because I find it very relaxing for my mind. I will probably throw a stream of that in once in a while, here and there, depending on what days. But at this stage, I know that I'm going to be streaming on Saturdays. I'm definitely going to be doing that. And the one thing that I'm not going to do is just rush back into a really heavy schedule, just in case I overwhelm myself again. So I'm going to definitely be live on Saturday, and then the intended stream days will be Tuesday, Friday, and then Saturday. But they will gradually come in as and when I feel that I'm ready for those to be added into this schedule.
Right.
So yes, at the moment, let's go with Saturday and see where we go from there.
Let's get the first one in, and then see how we do. So what he's saying is, when we get into Aries' stream, spam the 1,000 commands that we've missed for the past 8 months. Is that what you're saying? There'll be a bunch of Ximonis will probably go absolutely insane, but
yeah, absolutely.
Now, captains, it has first and foremost, Aries, thank you so much. I was really looking forward to this because there were some things that I really wanted to talk to you about that we've already talked about, but even then, it was still a great thing to share. And I can't say thank you enough for sharing that with us and allowing us to talk about that. So I guess to leave it on this question is kind of also, for me, it kind of gives me an insight to my fellow, Star Trek nerds. But what has Star Trek taught you, and what is it will keep driving you to do what you do?
Well, I mean, Star Trek has taught me so much. I think a lot of people that don't watch Star Trek underestimate what a great message it actually does have, and what Gene Roddenberry's vision was. Because the man was a genius. He had his own personal flaws, but what he was trying to achieve was outstanding. And like one of the things that I have always said, I am very tolerable of people. I will take people for who they are. I don't care. I don't care whether you're tall, short, dark, light, fat, thin, male, female. It makes absolutely no difference to me. I'll take everybody for who they are, and I think that is a quality that I have learned from Star Trek. Definitely. Like my acceptance of everybody for who they are and who they want to be. I just don't see why anybody has a problem with it. And I had this wonderful conversation with my manager when I was traveling and I was going out, and he was like, "Oh, you're away for the weekend to meet this person," and I'm like, "Yeah, he's him and his husband," and he actually said to me, and he went, "Do you have any friends that are straight?" And I went, "What? No, not really." And it's these are the things where you just sit there and it doesn't even cross my mind. When I had to sit and think, wait a minute, actually, no, I don't. And it doesn't cross my mind because it's not something that concerns me. And I don't wake up in the morning and think, I need to have 4 white friends. And it just bemuses me sometimes. And I think that's one of the best qualities that I think I actually have as a person. I will accept anybody for who they are. It doesn't bother me. If you want to identify as a potato, I'm fine.
What?
And I don't understand why people have a problem with this, And I said, "Oh no, this isn't right." Shut up. What does it matter? Just let people be who they want to be, and I think that's the best quality that I've ever received from Star Trek is my acceptance of people. Just accept people for who they are and get on with it. And what does it matter? It doesn't matter at the end of the day. It's not going to kill you, so get over it.
Yeah.
I think that's the best thing that Star Trek has ever, and this is something that I apply to everything in life. I always say, you don't agree with it, I don't care. You don't like it, I don't care. Just accept it and move on, and just go with it, because we are evolving as a species. The human race is evolving. We're evolving as a species. We're changing. Every day is different, and we're going to be in a different place in 10 years' time from what we are today. And whatever that is, we just get on with it and accept it and move. With the way that it goes, if you take back the 1960s, in the 1960s, we witnessed on TV in Star Trek the first racial kiss between a white person and a black person. And people today look at that and think, why was there a problem with that in the 1960s? I was like, well, if you ever had any idea what the 1960s were like, then you would know why there was a problem with that. Then Deep Space Nine had the first female on female kiss on screen. between two female actresses in daytime TV. You know, these are big things, and that's where I sit and go, I don't understand why people have a problem with this.
Yeah.
I just don't, and I think it's sad that we live in a society that and a world that has these fundamental problems, and that's the most powerful thing that Star Trek has always been forcing upon us or teaching us. Accept people. Doesn't matter where they came from, doesn't matter what they look like, doesn't matter where their background is from or whatever. Just accept them.
Yeah.
And life would be such a better place if that was how every.
Right? Like there'd be, oh my gosh, it's a hope, you know, and it continues to be a hope for me, but also a sign of positivity, you know. Like it's just, I mean, okay, I mean, let's be real, there's a lot of pew-pew, there's a lot of conflict in Star Trek, but the overall message that I feel that I get from it is a positivity. And I think now that we pair that up, especially the platform that we're on with our fellow captains, that just makes it much more something to look forward to, hopefully for a long time to come. Because this I have to say that all this Trek that's happening right now, and I think I think Q said it, it's like a golden age of freaking Star Trek. To have what, let's count it, what, Discovery, Lower Decks, Prodigy, Picard, Strange New Worlds, and then there's what, 2 more coming? There's like, it's wow, like, you know. And
this is absolute high. This is what I absolutely love about Star Trek, is because this hasn't happened since you had, you know, like DS9, Voyager, Enterprise, all these things overlapping each other while they were on TV, and reruns of TOS and TNG and things like that. And this is an absolute golden age. It's so good to have so much Star Trek on the TV. Because as a massive Star Trek fan, it's good to watch. You know?
Yeah.
The thing, and like talking about family time and things like that, you know, like Strange New Worlds was out one episode a week, you know, and we were having to wait for the next episode. And me and Lucy would sit down, and when it was released, and she was like, right, we're watching this. And of course, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. She's decided that we're watching Strange New Worlds because she wants to watch the next episode, and she loved it too. And that is the new family time for me, because that's my time with her, you know. And this is an evolution of something that I knew from a childhood, and it's back, and that's just great. I think it's absolutely great with all the stuff, and it's all diverse, it's all different, it's all aimed at different opportunities. You know, Strange New Worlds was, you know, aimed at old school. Picard has been aimed at, you know, nostalgia. Lower Decks has been aimed at the cartoon aspect. Prodigy is obviously aimed at children, you know, and it's still good. Lower Decks has got a good silliness to it, which is enjoyable, and people have taken the lightheartedness to it and the fun side of it. And all these things, and there's more shows coming, and you know, it's just great. It's just a great time for Star Trek, which is why I'm so looking forward to getting back in and streaming, because there's so much been going on that I've missed with my absence, and I'm looking forward to re-seeing and connecting with the community and getting to see all these new names and people that are in the community, so they can get to know me and be part of the bigger picture and the bigger community that is Star Trek Online, which is just great. It's a great community and great to be part of, which is why I love it so much.
So, captains,
well, you don't
next
have
Saturday. No.
I'm the emperor. Be quiet.
No, I mean, now that we know, you know, all I was gonna say is, captains, we need to see if we can stop by when Aries comes back. So what I'm gonna do right now is, on both chats, I'm gonna put in Aries's Twitch channel. Captain, do me a favor, and Prodigy. Oh yeah, okay. There's Prodigy. Consider getting your command code verified. I will say, and I've mentioned before to those who are just coming in too as well, Aries is one of the first streamers I saw when I started streaming, and a lot of what I learned to adapt to my style was from him, from Aries, Polarcade, you know, when it comes to sort of, especially dealing with chat. That's what I always love that portion when Aries would deal with chat, because he said it, this friendly banter, and it's always been a very so blame Aries.
Blame Aries.
Let's not. So Aries, sir, thank you again. I knew this was gonna be awesome, and it was even more than that. And this is on top of us talking mostly the same things that we've already talked about, you know. But I think
we had a good chat.
I think this really was another level, because we also were here with, and like what you said, some people that know yourself already. So blame Aries for Triz being a filthy casual. Yeah. No.
Yeah. Blame me
No.
if it makes you feel better. If it makes you sleep at night, blame me. It doesn't matter to me.
He's got big shoulders, so he can take it. So
I can take it. Yeah. Definitely.
Again, sir, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I will definitely do my very best to be there. I do have service on Saturday mornings. I might just be lurking, but
That's right by me.
what was my command? Exclamation Triz?
Yeah.
I think was it Triz? So hopefully I'll be able to at least type that. Again, thank you so much. I know it's early for you, but it's late for us here. Okay, Simon, just stop. You just gotta stop. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. I know for personally, we are going to just work on one more thing before we go, but captains, we are going to be doing a close off here. Aries, again, thank you, sir. I bid you a good day. I'm going to say any last words from you, though? Any last words from you to anyone?
I would just like to say, Trish, thank you so much. Your content is fantastic. I love it, which is why I also suggested this. And you're one of my favorite. I've got a lot of channel points to spend in your channel, so I'm going to start playing with that over the next couple of weeks too. I'm above 50k for just lurking. Yeah, like I just always thank the community. You know, you've got a great amount of viewers here. Brilliant, and this is the testimony to how good the Still community is. It sticks together, and it's going to be good to see people back. And Triz, thank you so much for being a content creator and everything. You mean the world to everybody. This is why we love you.
No, y'all just like, no, I appreciate the kind words, sir. I just like you, the reason why we do that, I do this is what you kept saying there. It's a community, so it is. I'm glad there are days that we just don't have the sound commands on, though. I will be sad. I will be bloody freaking honest there, but Emperor, thank you, sir. Salute to you. Thank you so much again. I appreciate it. So
you're welcome, Tris.
Have a good day, sir.
Indeed.
Wow, captains, that was absolutely incredible to have Mr. Aries on. And please do us a favor, go drop him a command code verification for next Saturday so we can see him. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna quickly raid someone. Let's pass on the Stow love. Let's do it. To like how, and I remember Aries' first raid to me. It was quite the thing. And then he'd always do this thing where he would warn me. So captains, we are going to be back tomorrow. Not sure what we're going to do, but you know we'll be back. Yes, you'll have your commands back. Do us a favor. We're going to go see this captain. It's quite the long name. So my captains on Twitch, my captains on YouTube, thank you so much for sticking with us through this interview. This was absolutely awesome. And just for the interaction, I'm pretty sure Aries appreciated it as much as I do. So to everyone, I'm going to just totally give everyone this. It is an LLAP.
And prosper.
Let's go see this captain. Show the love that the Star Trek community does. And like I said, we will be back tomorrow. Again, my captains, thank you so much. I love you all. Sawadee Kap.